early voting numbers, at least registered Republicans. But of course, the show is really just beginning here, guys.
Marissa, that downpour is certainly a bummer because that can always, of course, impact turnout. And I'm sorry that you have to be standing out in it, but we appreciate it. I do want to ask you also, and it's interesting to hear you note the fact that Republicans kind of seem to have turned out more in early vote. But one of the big things in Florida, of course, is this is one of those states, one of several, that has abortion on the ballot. Now, we know that to be such a motivating issue for voters. I'm wondering what you think that means. Does that mean that there is a surprise Democratic swing if Democratic voters are the ones who are really motivated to get out and put that on the abortion? Does it mean we see some split ticket voters? What are you looking for when it comes to this issue? And what have you heard from voters who are really energized by that issue?
Savannah, it is so interesting that you bring this up because it's something I've been keeping a close eye on since I've started covering this, since I've been keeping an eye on this over the last year and since May, of course, when we found out this spring that abortion was going to be on the ballot in Florida. And I can tell you right now, anecdotally speaking, a couple things to remember. So one, registered Republicans do seem to be ahead with early voting in Florida, but just because someone is registered with a party does not mean that they're going to be voting according to party lines. I have found registered Democrats who said that they were going to be voting for former President Trump, and I have found registered Republicans who told me they were going to be voting for Ms. Harris. So that is one thing to keep in mind. And another thing, as I was going out into the lines, asking people how they were voting, what I found is the majority of people that I found on the ground here, and that is just one very small sample size, Savannah, a lot of people told me that they were voting for former President Trump and they were voting yes on 4. So I will say it is entirely possible, something for people to keep in mind. As much as Democrats here, of course, hoping that people voting yes on 4 will lead to, as well, a large Democratic turnout on the ballot, it is possible that we could see former President Trump, the favored person here in the state of Florida, as well as abortion rights passed. But it does require 60% or more, which is a higher threshold than surrounding states.
Absolutely. It's so interesting to see what happens with that one and maybe an indication of what happens across the country. Marissa Parra in Florida for us, thank you so much. I'm going to bring in John Allen again. He's been with us all morning, and I do just want to ask you a quick question to follow up there on what she just said when it comes to that kind of idea of split ticket or what it means, because Florida is one of those places that expected to announce at least preliminary results pretty early, something we can maybe get a pulse on. Are you interested to see if the fact that abortion is a motivator gets someone to the polls, and then, as Marissa just said, it actually changes the top of the ticket for them as well?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think if we are able to sense that that's going on in Florida, you may be able to extrapolate that that's going on in other parts of the country. Conversely, if it doesn't seem that there is, some huge surge in voters, the fact that it's on the ballot means that for some of those voters, they will separate that question from their presidential question, right? But others, it may simply bring out more people who want to vote on that and connect that vote to their presidential candidate. So I'll be looking for it. I know our friend who we're about to talk to, Steve Kornacki, will be looking for it. And he's so good that a friend of mine texted me earlier, said, "Who's going to win tonight?" I said, "I don't know." And she wrote back, "I wish I went to high school with Kornacki."
So she can text him instead. That is a nice tease for what's coming up for us all. We are going to have Kornacki in just a moment. Make sure you all tune in at 5 p.m. Eastern. Tom Yamas and Hallie Jackson are going to kick off our special election night coverage and analysis. Then at 6:30 p.m., Lester Holt and Savannah Guthrie take over as those results start coming in. That's all right here on NBC News Now. But all morning, we've got much more to come here on this special Election Day edition of Morning News Now. We're going to take a deeper dive into whether America's ready for its first female president if VP Harris were to take the White House. But first, as you just heard, after the break, our own Steve Kornacki, who did not go to high school with John Allen or John Allen's friend, who wishes she had Kornacki's phone number. He's at the big board with more on when exactly we might start to see those results later tonight. Stay with us.
secretaries of state or attorneys general for the 50 states in order to get those type of complaints answered.
As far as the number of complaints, again, I know you can't go into specifics about a lot of the specific complaints, but how has, I guess, this election cycle compared to previous election cycles? Can you kind of delve into that?
Sure. So there's been an uptick in the number of complaints that we've seen this cycle compared to last. Now, obviously, it's a presidential cycle, so people pay more attention to what's going on. And we do, in presidential election cycles, see more activity at the Federal Election Commission than we would do in, say, in the off-year midterm elections. But we've seen an uptick. What we've seen a lot happening in politics these days is that the presidential campaigns in particular, but even the congressional and Senate campaigns, are being fueled primarily through low-dollar donors. So those would be donors who donate $200 or less to the process. And the regulations don't have the same rigorous requirements for reporting those type of donations as they do for those that donate over $200. And so we see a lot of complaints that come in about people say that they're not seeing as much disclosure in the money that's coming into the process. And so, and a lot of that is being fueled by the fact that there are low dollar donors. You know, we hear a lot about dark money and big money donors being the problem with the process. And I actually see the opposite happening. I see low dollar donors as driving the process more than anything else. Candidates have become very good at asking for that $10, $15, $20 donation, and people have been very receptive to that. I know most people are probably tired of it by now, but they're getting text messages and emails like crazy asking for those donations. And it's been a very effective fundraising strategy. And not that money in politics is a problem, because it's not. It's just that that's where we see the money coming from mostly as low dollar donors.
My last question for you, when should people go about lodging a complaint with the commission? And more importantly, how do people go about doing that?
Well, they should lodge a complaint with the commission when they genuinely see a problem in the process with how money is being spent in campaigns, and they should do that with actual knowledge of what's happening. You know, one of the things that I get frustrated with the most in my job is just complaints that are filed based upon mere innuendo or hearsay, and people don't actually have knowledge of what they're filing a complaint. It makes it very hard for us to do our job, because we do have to open an investigation, and we spend time and taxpayer resources to go investigate something, and ultimately there not be anything there. So if they actually see something or know that money is being improperly spent, file a complaint. It's very easy to do. You can go to fec.gov. There's a complaint process outlined on there. There's forms that people can fill out. And they do have to swear to the information that they're submitting to us, saying that they believe it to be true.
All right, Trey Traynor, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and break it all down. Anything else you want to add before I let you go?
No, Josh, it's just so important for people to participate in the political process. I'm glad to be a small part of that in dealing with the money that's spent in politics and people exercising their First Amendment rights. And thank you for taking the time to highlight it today.
Of course. Thank you again. And I know it's going to be busy, so we appreciate you being here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Josh.
And I do want to pop up this image that we do have as we saw Brad Raffensperger, the Georgia Secretary of State, walking in and addressing the media on elections. Let's pop up the audio.
And I'm just really grateful for the team that we have. I've led the way to make Georgia the most secure, free, and fair place to vote in the United States. And we've done that by doing a citizen audit, make sure only American citizens are on the voter rolls. We've done 2 audits on that. Now we have photo ID for all forms of voting. We have photo ID for absentee voting. And I believe that has helped shore up security and also confidence. And then we have a multi-state organization that makes sure we have clean voter lists, so our lists are up to date and accurate. So far, we're tracking line times. Average line time in Georgia right now is 2 minutes. And then with the electronic poll pads, average check-in is 49 seconds. When I checked in, it was actually, under 49 seconds. It was actually about 47 on early voting. And I did want to share that because you probably thought I got special treatment. But today, it's 49 seconds for everyone in Georgia. And so people are having a great voting experience. So Turnout looks like right now it's just solid, steady, and it's more than you would think because the lines are moving so quickly. So people are in and out in less than 10 minutes. So it's just a tremendous day. So that's where we are right now. And didn't know if anyone had any questions right now they'd like to ask. Yes, sir.
Secretary of State, when do you think Georgia will be able to call a win in the election?
Well, we will have, with SB 189, all of this early voting, so that's over 4 million ballots that were cast early, and the absentees that were accepted. All of that will have to be uploaded and reported no later than 1 hour after the polls close. Most polls will be closing at 7 p.m., so by 8 p.m. you'll have probably 99% of all that. So that'll be uploaded, so you get a good idea of what the race looks like. Then all the voting that you're seeing today, before the end of the night, you'll have all of that. Many of the smaller counties are pushing to be done by 10:30 at the latest, but that's the type of response you're going to see in the smaller counties. But by the end of the night, you'll have all of those results.
One follow-up question. Regardless of the outcome, do you expect legal challenges?
Well, that gets into future predictions, and our job is make sure we have a secure election that's accurate, and we're really excited that's also going to be fast. The voters are having a great experience. Lady in the back?
Sorry to interrupt. We received a lot of emails today about people who say their polling location was changed last minute. Signs outside of polling locations say it's actually this other location. Are there any reports of that? Do you know of any last minute changes? What should people do if they encounter this?
I haven't heard any reports about last minute poll changes.
Did all the polls open on time at 7? Any delays to that?
As far as we know right now, it's been smooth, and so we obviously hear about that a little bit later. But you always have a couple precincts that will have a 15-minute or a 30-minute extension. When you have 2,400, there's always something that could happen right at 7 a.m. I know I was up at 5, but many of the people that are working here, when I checked with them, they were actually up at 4. So I guess I stepped in.
Still on pace for 1 million, you think, today?
Oh, I think we'll pass that based on where we are right now, just the feedback we're getting. I think it'll be a little bit north of that. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
You can't predict the future, but have you prepared for mitigation if you need it in court, and specifically what kind of things have you done?
We're battle tested, and we'll have a process in place. We'll make sure we follow the law, follow the Constitution, and report the results accurately.
One more question.
Several thousand Cobb County voters got their ballots late. They were under the impression, many of them, as of yesterday, that they would be able to return those ballots late. With the motion to stay now, any word to them or to the people who are in charge of submitting those ballots or mailing those ballots?
The Georgia Supreme Court had a ruling, and every voter needs to return those no later than 7 p.m. If they can't get to the election office for Cobb County, then they can show up at their precinct, and they can then, nullify their absentee ballot, and then they can vote in person. So there's a process in place.
Have you heard of any threats at polling places that we've heard about? One bomb threat. Have you heard any other verifiable threats at any polling places?
We've heard some threats that were of Russian origin, and so I don't know how to describe if that's viable. We don't think they are, but in the interest of public safety, you always check that out, and we'll just continue to be very responsive when we hear about stuff like that. We identified the source, and it was from Russia.
Can you elaborate on that? What kind of threats?
As he said, it's a bomb threat.
So Russia, and you're confident of the Russians that did?
Yeah, just like we had the DDoS attack on Monday, October 14th, 420,000, pings denial service from Russians. So we added that interface that said, I am a human, I'm not a robot. So they're up to mischief, it seems, and they don't want us to have a smooth, fair, and accurate election. And anything they can get us to fight among ourselves, they can count that as a victory. So that tells you a little bit about the Russians. They're not our friends. Anyone that thinks they are hasn't been reading the newspapers. Thank you so much.
Can you clarify where they were from?
All right, that was a news conference underway there with Brad Raffensperger, the Secretary of State in Georgia. What you're looking at right now is a live look over in This is Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, not Pittsburgh there. You can see that is a voting count site where they are counting the ballots. We're not seeing folks lining up to vote, but rather the behind-the-scenes action there in one of 7 swing states. Again, that is over in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania at this hour. Officials expected to give an update there here shortly. We're going to hear from District Attorney Larry Krasner and Assistant DA Joshua Barnett of the District Attorney's Office in Philadelphia to provide a general Election Day update to members of the media, which we'll, of course, play for you here live as it does get underway. Again, that is coming up in just a matter of minutes here on Live Now from Fox. Do have to head to a quick break here at 10:46 on the East Coast and 7:46 on the West Coast. You're watching Live Now from Fox. We'll be right back. Good morning, everyone, and welcome in here on Live Now from Fox, 1048 on the East Coast and 748 on the West Coast. My name is Josh Breslow. Thank you so much for being with us here on your election day as we bring you the latest up-to-the-minute news coming in here. We have news conferences that are scheduled with officials from several different states. Coming up here in just about 10 minutes or so, we're going to hear from officials in North Carolina as they provide an update on the situation there on Election Day. Again, that is one of 7 key states that we are watching, those swing states that include others like Georgia, Arizona. We have our eyes on all of those. Now, I do want to pop up this live image that we have right here. This is actually over in Milwaukee. We do know Wisconsin, another battleground state here. I do want to check in with our Fox 6 Milwaukee team as they do have Zoe Chapala covering everything on the ground.
The polls are open. Take a look at this line. Dozens of people lined up this morning at the Zeidler building in downtown Milwaukee, getting ready to cast their vote for who they think should be our next president. Now, they do have until 8 o'clock tonight to cast their ballots. Now, sometimes officials confirm U.S. election results within hours of the polls closing, but this year's tight race could mean a longer wait. In Wisconsin, the first round of voting results tend to be a mix of ballots on Election Day and in advance. In the spring primaries, more than 1/3 of counties reported most or all results in the first report of the night, but bigger counties like Milwaukee did take a lot longer. Their first update
for example, of the night included only a small share of total votes cast. The Milwaukee Election Commission expects to work into the early morning hours to tally all of the votes.
We are ready, and I'm excited. Every observer has to sign in and respect the rules, but we look forward to showing transparency in the operations here at the City of Milwaukee.
Coming up throughout the morning, we'll talk to voters about how they're feeling about casting their ballots. In Milwaukee, Zoe Chapala, Fox 6 News.
Zoe, thank you. And again, that is our Milwaukee station, as we do have Fox affiliates all over the country, many of them in those key swing states. Want to pop up this live image that we do have just coming in. We've had a lot of different polling sites that we've seen throughout the morning, but this right here is over in City of Industry, California. It's not a polling site where people are lining up, rather a polling processing center where they are processing all of those ballots that have come in. A pretty cool look inside, and for the most part, we do have images coming in from all over. This is one where you can see voters are coming out in large numbers, and it's over in Fort Mitchell, Kentucky. We also have this image coming in out of Philadelphia. That is where they are counting the ballots there as well. Again, some locations will let us inside to get a view of the situation there with the ballots being counted. Others just like to keep us kind of outside or in the location where people are casting those ballots. Again, don't forget, our results coverage does start at 6 p.m. Eastern time tonight. You can watch it all unfold right here on Live Now from Fox. The second that we have those results come in, you will be the first to know. Do have to sneak in our final 2-minute commercial break of the hour, but so much more coverage to get to in just a few. You're watching Live Now from Fox. We'll be right back. Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox, 1054 on the East Coast and 754 on the West Coast. My name is Josh Breslow, and I'm here for the next hour to bring you all of your top stories, live events, and breaking news. And of course, we are all focused on Election Day today, as we do have our live coverage, our primetime coverage that begins at 6 p.m. Eastern time as we start to see some of those results come in. We'll make sure to pass those along to you the second that they come in. You can get them right here on Live Now from Fox. Do want to actually pop up here on the left-hand side of your screen there. You can see just some of the facts as I do pop up some of the other live images that we have. This one right here is going to be over in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We're going to have a news conference get underway with the district attorney's office in just a matter of minutes to essentially break down what we've seen so far as voting issues there. We'll make sure to bring that to you as it does begin. Also want to call your attention to the left-hand side of your screen there. Former President Trump expected to vote soon over in Florida. We did have a shot of that polling site a bit earlier, but if it pops back up, we'll make sure to show it here. But also it's important to remember that we did see Senator J.D. Vance vote a bit earlier on this morning, and afterward he walked right up to the cameras and answered some questions. So if Trump does the same, we will make sure to show you that live, raw, and unfiltered. Vice President Kamala Harris did cast her vote via mail-in ballot, and President Biden took part in early in-person voting on Monday, October 28th. As I mentioned, we have been checking in with our different Fox affiliates all over the country. So for now, I do want to check in with Fox 5 DC as they have a team of reporters that are all over the area.
And today is a historic day for the DMV and the entire nation, and Fox 5 will have you covered each and every step of the way. So Steve, he's in the newsroom to kick off and kick start our 10 a.m. coverage. Hey, Steve.
I think like everybody else, I'm focused on the puppies right now. But at 10 o'clock this morning, we are starting hour 7 of our live election coverage already, as polls across the region have already been open for hours. And we are watching some major races in addition to, of course, the big race for the White House that's drawing so many people out today. So we're going to take on a little tour across the DMV right now, courtesy of our amazing crew. Stephanie Ramirez has been all over D.C., from Howard University to the White House, now up on the Hill with more on security measures in place across the city for election night. Melanie Olwick's been in Maryland throughout the morning, keeping an eye on all things there, including that very key Senate race. But we're going to start things off in the middle with Maureen Ume. She's in the battleground state of Virginia, where voter turnout was pretty strong early this morning. How's it doing now, Mo?
So it was strong earlier. Now we're seeing kind of an ebb and flow of crowds coming to vote. Right now, not a whole lot of people going in, but there has been steady activity today. A lot of people early voting, some people voting for the first time today, certainly wanting to make their voices heard. It's been an interesting couple of hours here. You know, as you know, Virginia is a swing state. A lot of people, knowing that it's a blue state, perhaps could turn purple. So what happens with these down ballot races is certainly very important. We're watching a couple of them. The key ones are the Senate seat that's being held right now by Senator Tim Kaine. He's looking for a third term. He's running against Hung Kao, who is a Navy veteran. He has been a very formidable contender here. As you might know, he ran for the 10th Congressional District back in 2022. He did not win that race, but he is very much in line here with Kaine keeping toe-to-toe. They talk about immigration issues, tariffs. That's been the big concern here amongst those two. But polls have shown that Kao was trailing Kaine in the polls by 14 points, so that's pretty significant. Let's talk about the congressional races. We're focusing on the 10th District, also the 7th Congressional District. No incumbent in the ballot this year in both of those races, but in the 10th District, current Democratic Congresswoman Jennifer Wexton is not seeking re-election because of her health issues. The race is now between Democrat Suhas Subramanian and Republican Mike Clancy. The 7th Congressional District, Democrat Eugene Vindman facing off against Republican Derek Anderson. Vindman has focused on reproductive rights. He's also touted his military experience, while Anderson has talked about the economy and illegal immigration. We did speak with voters this morning who say whatever the outcome is today, they're just hoping for a better Virginia. Take a listen.
It's a big district, but we've got it's been a fun campaign. We've got a lot of tremendous energy, a lot of enthusiasm from the voters. And, it's really become a movement, and with a lot of great support.
Most importantly, I've talked to a lot of people that I already represent, and they've been very supportive of our campaign. So we feel really good right now.
All right, we're hoping to hear from voters who we talked to earlier. A lot of them saying that they're just hopeful that after all of this contention with this election, that things come back together and that we can at least function as one perfect union. For more or less, we'll see how that plays out as the votes begin to be tallied this evening. Polls are open until 7 tonight. Keep in mind, if you're voting here in Virginia, you have to vote at your precinct. Some people have made the mistake of coming here to the government center to vote. You have to vote at your precinct, but as long as you're in line by 7 o'clock, you can still get your votes in. So that's the very latest from here. Steve, I'll send it back to you for more election coverage today.
All right, Maureen, thank you very much. Let's go from one heavily populated county in Fairfax in Virginia over to Prince George's County. That's where Melanie is. Mel, it's interesting. Not just in Virginia, but in Maryland, as in D.C. Millions of people voted early, so there was some question as to how many people will come out, how busy it might be at the polls. What are you seeing in Upper Marlboro?
You know, I see a lot of enthusiasm. People are excited to come out, and it was what we would call a steady turnout. So no lines, nobody waiting just yet. However, people continuing to come in. And as Maureen has been observing, we're seeing all types. We've seen people who are regular voters. We've seen a lot of first-time voters, and they make it a big event here when there's a first-time voter. Everybody cheers them on, really trying to support folks being involved in that civic duty. We've seen a lot of people bringing their children here as well. Of course, the candidates voting for themselves, I would think, this morning. Let's show you video from earlier today. Early this morning, Republican Governor Larry Hogan, former Governor Larry Hogan, he was out bright and early casting his ballot in Davidsonville, Maryland. And we know he has been campaigning heavily across a lot of the state. He's been hoping that he might be able to pick off a few independents or maybe some right-leaning Democrats in the state. We know, however, that it's probably an uphill climb for him. Now, back out live here at Wise Junior High School, we are standing by waiting for Angela Also Brooks, his contender, to arrive here. She should be here any minute, her entourage. So this is where she plans to vote this morning along with her daughter. And she's not the only one. As we mentioned, we've seen lots of people coming out with their sons and daughters. Here's one mom we talked to this morning.
I'm just excited. This is a very important election. I felt that it was important to have my daughter here too, so that she understands the importance of having a voice and speaking, and this is the perfect way for her to do it.
Yeah. The whole process was fun. I got to see what I would do when I'm older.
And so that's really nice to see families making this an event. Both candidates, of course, have made their cases over the airwaves for many, many months now, at times turning negative, but today it is all about the positives, about that civic duty and coming out to play a part in this historic election. So, Steve, a lot of people, I've been asking them, do they have plans for tonight? How are they going to watch it? And a lot of people saying they're just so anxious. They're not sure what they're going to do today, but they're going to try to keep themselves busy until those polls close at 8 p.m. and the results start coming in.
Yeah, it's the next big question. The important thing is they got out there and they were able to cast their vote, and that's the most important thing. Mel, thanks very much. Let's wrap things up in the district. Stephanie Ramirez, for hours this morning, has been canvassing different parts of D.C. She's up on the Hill right now. Security is always an issue. You know, you hate to see things like all the fencing that's going up. City officials, though, believe it's necessary if anything happens today or tomorrow or in the near future. Stephanie, what have you found across the city?
Yeah, a lot of security measures in place this morning, and rightly so. Now, we were at the Naval Observatory this morning behind anti-scale fencing. Howard, I'll get to that in just a moment. We did move over to the Hill, and now we're by the White House, which we know is behind fencing, but we're just a few blocks off from that by 15th and I, where I also want to show you the businesses. So some restaurants this morning are operating business as normal open, but then others have decided to take measures into their own hands and board up. Now, this is not new. It is something we have seen in the city before. Over at Howard University is where Vice President Kamala Harris is holding her campaign election night watch party. So to the left of your screen, you should be seeing fencing going up yesterday when we were able to get on Georgia Avenue. Then today, police not allowing us near that same location with our news truck. You can see from our vantage point earlier, a couple blocks away from Georgia, there in Barry, I believe, several police vehicles, tow trucks, city dump trucks were in place for added security. The street closures around the campus officially in place as of 7 last night. And as you noted, we might be seeing these heavy security measures in place for the days to come. And while some say they are anxious seeing all of this security, a lot of those who are Bisons, Howard students or grads, they are moving around with more pep in their step this morning. Here's some we talked to this morning.
We're feeling excited.
Super excited.
Yes.
This is just an historic time that we're really looking forward to.
Let your voice be heard.
Get out and vote today.
Now, we know D.C. police, they're operating all hands on deck. Do want to answer Mr. Presswood's social media message. Polls in D.C. are open until 8 o'clock tonight, guys. You can vote in any of the city's at least 75 polling locations, and make sure you have your ballots in by 8 o'clock today as well. Send it back to you.
All right, keep that in mind. In the city, you can vote at any of those locations, but if you're out in, say, Fairfax County, where Maureen is, you got to be at your precinct. So keep that in mind as you vote today. Stephanie, thank you very much. Maureen, Melanie, thanks so very much. We have many many other correspondents out throughout the day today. We're going to continue that coverage all day long on air and on our Fox Local app, which you can download right now by just scanning that QR code that you see on the screen. Our live election coverage will continue right up until...
All right, remember, you can watch our election coverage here starting at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We appreciate all of our Fox affiliates across the country. Looks like we do have an update coming in right now out of Arizona. Let's pop up the audio and listen in.
80%. We're looking close to about that. But those predictions we will leave up to you all. We just want to make sure everyone who shows up today will vote. To that end, we have 657 polling locations all over our 15 counties. A variety of models, vote centers in many counties, precinct-based polling in just a couple of our counties. As you know, Arizona is a bottom-up state, and so the counties get to decide a lot of the specifics and particulars about the way they get to run their elections. If you have any questions about your voting location, you can go to arizona.vote. Again, that's arizona.vote for a lot of this information. As of about 6:20 this morning, all of our polling locations were open. We did have one issue of someone who forgot to bring a key to one of our locations in Maricopa County, which is very typical. We also had one location in Mojave County that lost power for a short period of time, but they were also open by the time we hit 6:20 a.m. We want to make sure to mention something right off the top, and that is this. Observers inside of our vote centers and polling locations are authorized only if they are credentialed by, one, the political parties, or number two, the Department of Justice. There are no other authorized folks other than voters and the election staff who are authorized to be inside of that 75-foot line and into the polling places. And we also want to mention very briefly, we've had, as of about half an hour ago, we've had 8 calls to our office. 4 of them were for folks who were electioneering within the 75-foot line. These are complaints. The other 4 were a variety of different sorts of questions. And so I can report that as far as I know right now, everything in the state of Arizona is running about as smoothly as it could be. Ongoing tabulation of ballots will continue, and it will not stop today. As many of you know, Arizona allows, unlike some states, Arizona allows for tabulation well before Election Day. So when you see those 8 p.m. numbers tonight, many of our counties are estimating that we'll be at about 55% of our total. That will not include Election Day voters, and it will not include those voters who turned in their early ballots today or within the last day or so. We want to make sure that folks understand that all of the ballots that have been tabulated go through a pretty rigorous process, and it runs in sort of 2 stages before the ballot. Where those folks doing the signature verification get trained by the same folks who train the FBI. It's a 27-point analysis of every single signature, and there's 3 layers of folks who actually look at each of these signatures. So that takes a while. And then they go to a series of folks in pairs who will take the envelope out of, or take the ballot out of the envelope. This is another process. And now that we have 2 pages worth of ballots here in each of those envelopes in Arizona, 9 of our counties anyway, it's going to take a little longer for all of that to happen. So please be patient with us. We know folks want results as quickly as possible. We leave it to the media to make your projections whenever you like, but we will have our numbers, as always, 10 to 13 days after Election Day, because we want to get it right the first time. We're not just making projections. We're actually giving you the official numbers. After the election and after we're moving forward, there will be post-election audits that the counties will run. These hand count audits and or logic and accuracy tests ensure on the backside, as well as so much of what we've done on the front side, that we've got solid integrity in our elections. Now, Arizona did lower the threshold, excuse me, for recounts recently. It was 0.2% would take us to an automatic recount. In recent years, and again, I'll reiterate, without any statistical reasoning whatsoever, I think it was based on some people's feelings, we lowered that threshold to 0.5%. And what does that mean in a battleground state like Arizona? It's possible we will have to do a recount if some of these races are very close. Now, there's one in particular that has deadlines under the Electoral College Act, the ECRA, that office, if we go to a recount, we're going to have to deploy our election director and several teams around the state very quickly after the canvass so they can redo logic and accuracy tests on all of the tabulation equipment across the entire state before we can actually do the recount, because we will recertify the equipment again prior to that recount. And so, as with so many elections administrators, we hope that whatever the margins are, they're better than 0.5%, because I'm sure that nobody really wants to deal with that sort of thing. But if it happens, we are ready for it. Now, I want to make sure that folks get out there and vote. And remember, across many of our counties, and I'm speaking to our voters now, please understand you've got a 2-page long ballot. And in our biggest county, Maricopa, the average ballot has 78 different elections on those 2 pages, front and back. Please be prepared, have hopefully made your decisions before you get into that voting booth. You can bring in a piece of paper. Some folks will bring in a voter guide that they've received. You can use that just to transfer onto your actual ballot the choices that you've already studied and made. This will help the process go much more quickly. But for those people who may find themselves in line, the weather's beautiful in Metro Phoenix and I think across the state today. And so get to know your neighbors. Please exercise patience and make sure you get up and moving once you get in there. I think we've covered just about all of the specifics that I wanted to cover. Madam Director, do you have anything particular you want to share before we go to questions?
Thank you for being here. Thank you for encouraging people to get out and vote. Do have your patience. Do bring your sample ballot. Do ask as you're standing in line if you need a sample ballot, you need a publicity pamphlet. They have plenty of supplies for you. So make your voice heard today.
Thank you so much. We'll go ahead and do questions, and we'll come this direction, starting over here.
Secretary, you were saying yesterday that you were being briefed on the video related to do you have any updates?
Well, when I told you I was being briefed on the video, I was under a little bit of a misunderstanding. The briefing was a little more broad than just that, and so because of that, I can't really talk to you too much more about that. But the parts that I did get briefed on are the same things that were put out by the FBI and sort of that joint investigative task force. That's already been made public by those folks, so you can refer to that statement. Yes, ma'am.
Secretary Elizabeth Schultz with ABC News. You mentioned 10 to 13 days. Is that the timeline you are expecting for all the votes here to be counted in Arizona this year? And what's your message to voters or candidates frustrated who might want to know results?
Well, 10 to 13 days is as usual, right? And that's for our official numbers. Now, if the media and the folks who do these sorts of things want to make their projections sooner, that's fine. Those are the projections from the media. Now, a lot of times people will get confused. If they hear it on the media, you know, let's say our friends at the Associated Press or any of the other outlets make a call, they think, well, that's it. Well, that's never been the official number. The official number comes from the counties to the state, and then we put that out. That takes 10 to 13 days. We'll leave it to you all to talk about the other timelines, and that's really what I want to let the voters know. We are consistent in Arizona. We have very rigorous standards with which we analyze each of the ballots that's going to go through the process. With 2-page long ballots, it could take about the far end of that and maybe a little bit more. And what I have to say about that is this. You know, if the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate had decided to work with the governor this year instead of shoving all these policy issues onto the voters and have 13 different initiatives and referenda that we'd have to deal with, I think we'd have a shorter ballot, and I think we'd get it a little quicker. So if you want to call President Peterson or Speaker Toma, let them know about your dissatisfaction for waiting too long for the results. Yes? I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Statewide early vote numbers are still being compiled at this time. Early voting really is a very long and sort of a dynamic process. And when we give you numbers, we want to be exact as possible. We can come back with you later on in the day with some better estimates from across the state. But here's the thing. We really have a lot of teams that are working on a whole bunch of stuff right now. We don't want to bother them too much, but we, at this time, since it is election day, but we'll get you our best estimate on those numbers at our press conference later this afternoon. I think we might be scheduled for one.
And you can say that we had across the state record turnout for early voting this time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry. You're right, Director. We've had record turnout here in Arizona, as we've seen in a lot of spaces. I think we beat 2020 already, which is a really great thing for our voters. It means that they're excited, they're participating heavily, and that's a very good thing. It's a lot of work, but it's work that we're happy to do. Yes, and then I'll come.
NBC News. If there are problems that pop up at the vote centers throughout the day, do you plan on reporting those in any way?
When we do have problems, the first thing we want to do is identify the problem and try to get on the path to solving the problem. We don't want to really kind of bring a lot of attention to something if we want to make sure to get it solved for the voters first. They are our priority. That having been said, when we do identify issues, I think you've seen my administration constantly bring things forward that might be uncomfortable, and so we will be as transparent as possible through the day, but it really depends on the circumstance and how close we are to resolving those things. Really, it's about the voters who are voting in those locations more important than anything else, and so that's where we're going to keep our focus. Yes, sir.
Chris St. Cleve, CBS News. Wanted to ask you said, looks like so far so good as the voting. We have seen in other swing states today things like bomb threats being called in. Do you have any security concerns? Have you experienced anything like that today or in the days leading up to that election?
Well, we saw some stuff that was breaking. One of your colleagues here asked a question about that video earlier. We have seen a couple of other minor instances at this stage of the game, though we haven't seen anything that has come to my knowledge today. I don't think the directors heard anything else either, and we're usually close to the first ones to know. And so I don't have anything like that to report, and that's a really positive thing. Let's find some wood to knock on over here that's the way it stays for the rest of the day, not just for the safety of our voters, but all the folks who are out there working to make this election go well. And I'll go right behind you. There was a question.
Arizona's family. So about 45 minutes ago, the Navigation president said some voting machines were down in Apache County and voters were being voted away. What do voters do in that scenario if that was in fact the case? And how often is it being updated with locations?
So I can't confirm right now what is being reported apparently out of Apache County, but what I can say is this. If in fact you do have a circumstance as a voter at a polling location in Arizona, don't go away and don't let anybody outside of that space turn you away. And our poll workers should be hoping that folks can either stay there and vote or redirect them to a vote center nearby, which is the best protocol. But folks can always just hang tight for a while. Usually the elections officials can deal with issues pretty quickly. Oftentimes you'll get maybe a printer that has a jam, or they might run out of paper. We've got folks all over the state who are ready to troubleshoot these sorts of things. In fact, that's part of our regular planned protocol. So if we do, we'll definitely check into Apache County and what's going on up there. I don't have any personal knowledge to confirm what you're asking about, but we'll get there.
We can talk about serial planners. Election administrators are serial planners. So they have backup plans to the backup plans. So they have additional paper ballots. They also have accessible voting devices, so people can vote on those if they have a printer jam with a ballot on demand printer. So lots of various options, and every county has different setups.
Thank you. Yeah.
Adam from ABC 15, just wondering if you can clarify again, just with Mojave County, we were getting messages from viewers saying it was a computer glitch or something of that nature. You said it was a power outage there, and things are back up and running?
Yeah, our understanding was it was a power outage, and they got back up by about 6:20 this morning. I got the text message once it got down the chain to me a little after 6:30 this morning that we were 100% open, and that came from the ACTIC, one of our fusion centers that has all that information. So I think we're in good shape. Yes, ma'am.
Could you tell us in what county was the problem with the key forgotten, and also could you explain what happened with this video?
Yeah, the county that had the key that got forgotten was right here in Maricopa County. They've got several hundred vote centers. In fact, when I was the Maricopa County recorder, we had one, literally the church lady didn't wake up that day and someone had to go knock on her door to get the key. In fact, we had another circumstance where the golf school that we had leased our space from got foreclosed on the night before. The landlord changed the locks and we couldn't get in. So these things happen, right? And it's not unusual. But we eventually will make sure that we're taking care of our voters. What was the second part of your question? Oh, the video, yeah. Yesterday, the day before yesterday, a video popped up on the internet, and it was, I think I called it BS to one of the local stations. I won't use the full word here, purporting to be someone who had worked in my office, claiming all these other kind of instances of like that I was actually doing something nefarious, and the person interviewing this other person was speaking with a very heavy Russian accent. Again, the FBI and their partners in the intelligence area have put out a very clear statement on that that describes it a bit. And so we're going to leave it in their hands at this time. But it's been widely sort of thrown under the bus as a fake on the internet. So it's just another one of those attempts, I think, that we have from foreign actors to try to influence our elections and make people lose faith in the work that we do.
Okay, and lastly, can I just ask about the list, the famous list?
The famous list? Yeah, we talked about that extensively yesterday. We turned over, according to the court order that I opposed, that list of names and personal identifying information of approximately 218,000 voters in Arizona. I did not want to turn that over. I was supported by some folks who are former law enforcement folks who understand the possible risks that releasing those names and that information would foist upon voters. And what we asked voters to do was go to my.arizona.vote to check and see, A, if they were on the list, and number two, we asked anybody who might be on the list to hold off on contacting their county recorders, to wait. We're going to be contacting those voters after this election because the state Supreme Court issued an order that said that these folks were eligible to vote in every election. We're standing under that order still, and I very much hope that the folks to whom we gave these names and this identifying information will hold off on trying to contact or harass any of these voters until well after this election. We're going to get this issue resolved and bring all those folks into compliance with the letter of the law. Yes?
My name is Kenta. I'm with TBS, Japanese media outlet. How do you want the people of Arizona to react when they got to know the results?
How do I want them to react?
Yeah.
Well, you know, winners are going to be happy and the losers can try again better next time. I mean, that's just the way American elections work. I'm hoping that part of that reaction is a deep sense of gratitude for all of the election workers out there. These folks who are, for example, here at Burton Barr Library working very long hours. I mean, our folks just today will probably have arrived somewhere around 5 o'clock in the morning. They're not going to get out of there until maybe 9, 10 o'clock at night. It's a very long day. And many of these folks have been working for a month or more, and this isn't their permanent job. So I hope voters will have a sense of gratitude when they see these results towards the folks who work hard to preserve their constitutional rights. Let's go to the back here.
Bloomberg News, are you in communication with any of the counties that have previously been skeptical of the election results? Cochise County, and what is your message for some of those officials that have previously had issues with canvassing the election?
Well, that's really one of the most interesting parts about this work, because we work day in and day out with all of the counties and all of those folks. You know, whether some of these folks feel one way politically and that bleeds into their job sometimes or not, for the most part, I think across Arizona, pretty much everybody we know in election administration can separate their opinion from their duty. You know, you've got standing before you a bipartisan team. Director Mara is a lifelong Republican. You should see the wonderful decorations in her office celebrating Republican presidencies and so forth. And I am an unabashed Democrat. That's our opinion, right? But together we have a duty to all of Arizona's voters. And this is the way we sort of joyfully and sometimes a little playfully move through this. You know, we can be adults. We can be grown-ups. We can have those political differences and still do the fundamental stuff right for our voters. And I think that Arizona has always stood for that in just about every election space. So do we have differences of opinion? You bet. But our duty is primarily to the voters, and I think most of the time, in fact, almost all the time, that duty gets fulfilled well. I saw a hand over here.
So, you talked about that list release yesterday. Did that cause any, I know there was a message on the website. Did that cause any immediate confusion for voters? Did you receive any emails so far? After you clarify with people like I'm still able to vote?
Lisa, do you know of any?
I am not aware of an overwhelming number of people. We've had phone calls, we've had emails. We're directing people to the my.arizona.vote website to check their status. County recorders have that list, but again, we're asking for a little patience today because, again, election officials are running today's election. So we'll get that squared away, but I'm not aware of any enormous amount of calls or emails.
Yeah. The timing of the order couldn't have been less fortunate for our election administrators. Yes, and then I'll come over here.
Justin with 12 News. Back in 2016, there was concern that Russia had hacked our voting system. Have you seen any concerns like that this year? And can you talk about the security of our software?
So the security of our software is way better than it was in 2016, and we didn't have any real evidence of that happening here in Arizona in 2016. That was a bit of misinformation, disinformation, and back in 2016, boy, those were much more innocent days, if you will. We've worked really, really hard, particularly over the last year and a half since I took this office, to lock down not only our systems at the Secretary of State's office, but we've deployed resources across the entire state, sending out from CISA, for example, personal security agents, I think they're personnel security agents and cybersecurity agents, to survey each one of our counties. And we gathered that information up and then went to try to find the resources to help those counties improve their systems. So it's not just the cyber stuff, the networking stuff, the firewalls, but it's also some of the physical security for our folks and our facilities that we've been working on. We're in a very, very different place, and I can tell you our elections have never been more secure and never been more accountable. Now, do we get pinged by foreign actors? All the time. All the time. In fact, I've got the National Guard working to monitor our computer systems 24/7, and it was the Secretary of State's office that was first to discover in Arizona the recent, well, it wasn't an attack, that software glitch that happened and hit global networks across with one of the firewall software systems that was out there. So we're very, very vigilant. Some folks say we go a little over the top, but better safe than sorry, says this old Marine. Yes, ma'am.
Regarding election observers, have you heard anything about people without credentials at one location with a tabulation center, or is that something that you're worried about throughout the day?
What have you heard? Yeah, why don't you take that one?
So we worry about everything all the time, but counties are well aware of, and the law is very clear. Authorized political party observers that have to be credentialed, and Department of Justice. The Department of Justice is here visiting 4 counties. The Department of Justice always send observers. So any other groups are just not official observers. They're not allowed into the polling locations. We are getting a few reports that there are some groups, and I say groups lightly, 2 or 3 people that say they're observers, but they can't go within that 75-foot line.
One other thing regarding the 75-foot line that I think is important, we know there's a lot of folks out there, and I'm talking to voters now, who are really interested and really proud of the fact that you're voting, and sometimes you want to memorialize this moment and all that good stuff. Please understand, it's against the law to be photographing or recording inside of your polling places. And so if you want to memorialize the moment, get outside the 75-foot line, take your selfie, and then go in and vote. Not only do we want to protect the process, but the privacy of the other voters and our staff that are engaged in this process. It is a public process, but we do want to maintain some order in there. So thanks for asking that question about our polling places. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, that's one of the great things about Arizona. We are bottom up, and so it's the counties that are really charged with all of this. We give them a lift whenever we can. And we really actually haven't had that many issues this year. In fact, even with the loss of so many elections officials over the last couple of years, folks are coming to us understanding the nature of the work, understanding the possible issues that can arise with that, eyes wide open. And they're motivated to do good stuff.
Yeah, Arizona, people are passionate about elections here. And so I'm not aware of any counties really having any difficulty filling poll worker spots. And anybody who's a first-time poll worker, it becomes addicting. And then they just come back year after year.
All right, we'll do one or two more real quick, and then they're going to swoop.
All right, so what you're listening to there is the Arizona Secretary of State as he is answering questions from members of the media. We expect that could happen a few times today from several different states, so we'll make sure to bring those to you live, raw, and unfiltered as we do get them. Do want to head to a quick 2-minute commercial break now at 11:29 on the East Coast and 8:29 on the West Coast. On the other side of the break, we're going to bring in Minnesota's Secretary of State to give us an update on the situation there. That's coming up in 2 short minutes. Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox, and you are taking a live look over in Palm Beach, Florida. That is where we know that former President Trump is going to be casting his ballot. Now, we are told that he will hold a news conference of sorts afterward, just like we heard from J.D. Vance a bit earlier on this morning. Obviously, you can see some of the folks are leaving. The shot not the best as it is kind of freezing up, but we'll make sure to bring you Trump's comments in full as he speaks live here on Live Now from Fox. Now, I do want to talk a little bit more about the election overall, because if you were watching, we just had an update from the Secretary of State in Arizona. But right now, I do want to bring in the Secretary of State for Minnesota, Steve Simon. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
My pleasure. Happy Election Day.
Happy Election Day. Well, first off, just want to ask overall about what turnout has been like today.
So far, really, really strong. I've been on the phone today with a dozen or so county election leaders, and they all report the same thing. Despite a little soggy weather here, really, really strong turnout, which you'd expect. Minnesota does really, really well. We're aiming to be #1 in the country. We think we can get there, but people are really enthusiastic, and the weather's not bothering anyone.
What about any sort of issues? Have any issues been reported technically or anything of that nature throughout the morning?
Very few. They're the kinds of things that are normal and natural and expected. Somebody forgot to plug a machine in and then plugged it in, or there was a glitch with a printer, but then fixed. So these are the kinds of things that arise occasionally, and at this point they are just that, just the normal occasional glitches that have been, for the most part, solved and addressed. So we're hoping for a smooth, drama drama-free day. I've said that my two big wishes are high turnout and low drama. So I hope my wishes will be granted today.
Of course. And we've seen record turnout in several states. We know that 1/3 of all American voters overall had cast their votes in early voting. So what was the situation like there in Minnesota?
Yeah, in Minnesota, we had a lot of early voting. It was more than double the pace at the same point than 8 years ago in 2016. 2020 was a little of an outlier because of COVID and people flocked to voting from home and voting early. So it wasn't as high as 2020 in terms of early voting, but more than double what it was 8 years ago. That tells me people are really enthusiastic about this election, and they're showing that by voting early and voting any way that they can so far.
I know this is a tough question to answer, but some states say that it could take days to count all of their ballots. Is there any early indication at this point how long Minnesota will take to count all of those ballots? Do you have any inkling on how long that could be?
Yeah, that's a very important question, because in Minnesota, our rule is that all ballots have to be in by 8, including mail-in ballots. So by breakfast tomorrow morning, Minnesotans should have all or substantially all of the results. But just so your viewers know, there are several states that have different laws. Pennsylvania, a battleground state, has a different law. They can't even start counting absentee vote ballots until late tonight. So of course they're going to be counting for a day or two or more. And that's not a sign that anything bad happened or anyone did anything wrong. It's a sign that they are very much complying with their law. There are other states that have a postmark rule, for example, where as long as you get it in the mail by election day, that means by definition they're going to be counting in other states. So for a while. So in Minnesota, by breakfast tomorrow. But in a number of other states, including battlegrounds, it is natural, normal, and lawful for it to be taking maybe a few extra days.
Delving into that just a little bit deeper here, when can people start counting those votes in Minnesota? I do know that it kind of varies based on the state. So what is Minnesota's kind of stance on that?
Yeah, in Minnesota, all ballots have to be in by 8 o'clock, whether you vote in person, the polls close at 8. If you have a mail ballot in your hand, you need to get it hand delivered by 8. And if they come in by mail, they won't be accepted until after 8. So 8 tonight is the cutoff for every kind of ballot, every which way, which means the counting will start promptly right after that, which is why I say that within a few hours after the polling places close at 8 tonight, and for sure by breakfast tomorrow morning, we are very likely to have all or substantially all of the results in Minnesota. But again, other states have different laws, and they have to follow those laws. And in those other states, not Minnesota, but in other states, including some battlegrounds, it's probably going to take a few days. And that's entirely natural, normal, and lawful.
Anything else you want to make sure that voters are aware of, that they know?
I just want to make sure everyone knows where to go. In Minnesota, we have a website. It's mnvotes.gov for Minnesotans watching this broadcast. And I just want everyone everywhere in all the states, if you're an eligible voter, remember your vote is your voice. Go stand up, step up, and be a voter. Check out your state Secretary of State website or another trusted source, people who actually run elections, to get the information you need to cast that ballot.
All right. Minnesota Secretary of State Steve Simon, thank you so much. I know it's a busy day, so we definitely appreciate you being here. Anything you want to add before I let you go?
Just that I hope that my two wishes come true. And my two wishes are for Election Day and beyond. I wish for high turnout and low drama. That's what we need as a country. We need everyone to go out and vote who wishes to vote. But then we have to have the low drama. We have to all ultimately come to accept the results of the election, even if, or especially if, they aren't consistent with the way we might have personally wanted them to come out. We have to make sure that at some point after the last court has issued its last ruling, let's say weeks from now maybe, that that's it. That's the end game. That's when the string has run out, and we have to come together as a country around the result.
All right. Secretary, thank you so much for being here with us today. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And I do want to pop up this image once again. This is over in Palm Beach, Florida, as we do know that former President Trump is casting his ballot. Now, he is expected to hold a news conference of sorts after he does cast his vote. We also know that we saw earlier today as his running mate, J.D. Vance, voted over in Cincinnati, Ohio. Important to note that Kamala Harris did actually do a mail-in ballot, so we won't see any video of her over the next few hours or so, because that was a mail-in ballot. Looks like the shot's kind of going in and out at this point, so I'm not sure how well the comments from Trump will come in. If the camera's not looking good, they might just kind of bring him outside, because we do have this shot from outside as well. Let's head to a quick 2-minute commercial break here, but we'll have more live coverage coming up in just a few. You're watching Live Now from Fox. Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox, 11:41 on the East Coast and 8:41 on the West Coast. My name is Josh Breslow. Thank you so much for being with us here on Election Day. As we are prepping, we are ready to bring you all those results when they come in later on today. 6 p.m. Eastern Time is when our primetime coverage will kick off with Andrew Kraft, Austin Westfall, and the rest of the gang here to bring you those results. One thing I do want to pop up right here, this is a feed where we are going to be hearing from former President Trump as he does cast his ballot. We heard from his running mate J.D. Vance a bit earlier on this morning as he cast his ballot over in Cincinnati, Ohio. Trump voting there in Palm Beach, Florida. Cameras are allowed inside, but not that far inside, so we are still waiting for him to exit. And once he does, he should be giving kind of a brief news conference of sorts to the reporters that are waiting out there. Once we do see him, we'll make sure to bring that to you in full right here on Live Now from Fox. Also do want to head to this ballot counting center. This is over in Houston, Texas. Now, just a short time ago, we heard from officials there as they updated us on the situation with counting ballots there, voting, all of that. Let's pop up the audio and listen in to Harris County, Texas officials.
Good morning, good morning. Good morning, testing 1 2 3, testing 1 2 3. We got sound? Good morning, I'm Tanisha Hudspeth, your Harris County Clerk, TENESHIAHUDSPETH. It is Election Day. We are finally here. Can you believe it? More than 1.2 million voted early here in Harris County. And as of a little 10 o'clock, well, now we're a little bit after 10 o'clock, more than 85,000 voters have voted here in Harris County today. Our team has been working hard.
And wouldn't you know it, the second that we took that other feed, we now have former President Trump after he casted his ballot in Palm Beach. Let's pop up the audio to see if we can hear.
Yeah, a little bit more towards the mic. Yeah.
Where would you like it?
this year. A lot of people are going to be at the convention center at Mar-a-Lago. We have a lot of people. I've been very honored to find out that the lines are long and the conservative lines, Republican lines are very long. We got back pretty late last night, and it was an honor. It was a great honor. We had 4 incredible rallies and left Michigan late at night. Many of you are with us. And I hear we're doing very well.
Mr. Trump, you voted against the abortion measure in the end, meaning supporting Florida's 6-week restriction.
We did a great job in that we brought it back to the states, as you know. I believe in exceptions, as Ronald Reagan did. And we did a great job. We did something that they wanted to do for 52 years.
Mr. President, you've talked a lot about unity. If you win, there are going to be tens of millions of Harris supporters who are going to be upset. What would your plan be to reach out to those people, bring them in? What would your message to them be?
Well, it'll be just that. We want to bring everybody in. We want to be very inclusive, and we will be very inclusive. We have a great country, but we have a country that's in trouble. It's in big trouble in many ways. And we have to straighten it out. We have crime is through the roof. We have people pouring through our borders that are not exactly perfect. They come out of prisons. They come out of prisons. 13,000 people convicted of murder. We don't need this in our country. We have enough difficulty. We don't need that. So I think people saw that. And it just seems that the conservatives are voting very powerful.
Are you feeling anxious, Trump? President Trump, looking back,
just finish it up.
How are you feeling? Nervous, anxious, excited?
I feel very confident. I have. You know, we went in with a very big lead today. And it looks like Republicans have shown up in force. So we'll see how it turns out. But it seems that they've really shown up in force. I just got a call from Dan Patrick in Texas. I'm very confident. I have felt. You know, we went in with a very big lead today. And it looks like Republicans have shown up in force. So we'll see how it turns out. But it seems that they have really shown up in force. I just got a call from Dan Patrick in Texas. He said they've never seen anything like it. It's been very good.
Looking back, is there anything you would do differently about your campaign today? Do you regret about how you ran this campaign?
Look, regrets. You always have regrets. I can't think of any, to be honest, to use her expression. I can't think of any. I ran a great campaign. I think it was maybe the best of the 3. We did great in the first one. We did much better in the second one, but something happened. And this was the best. I would say this was the best campaign we ran.
President Trump, do you accept the possibility that you and Vice President Harris both might not get to 270 electoral votes by the end of tonight?
It should never happen. A thing like that should never happen. This election should be over. They spend all this money on machines. And frankly, if they'd use paper ballots, it would be over by 10 o'clock. And by the way, the paper ballots would cost 8%. Would be 8% of the cost. If they would use paper ballots, voter ID, proof of citizenship, and one-day voting, it would all be over by 10 o'clock in the evening. It's crazy. They use these very expensive computers, and I'm hearing in Pennsylvania they won't have an answer till 2 or 3 days from now. I think it's an absolute outrage if that's the case. Now, maybe it'll be later, but it's paper ballots in France. They went paper ballots because the mail-in was not working. It was corrupt. And in France, they went paper ballots. And at 10 o'clock in the evening, they had 37 million votes counted and done. They had a winner, they had a loser. And in this country, I mean, I'm just hearing that in certain states, it's going to be a long time, and it won't even be close. It won't even be that close. They say, I'm going to win the state, but it's going to take a long time to certify it.
Could you see a world where you don't declare victory tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing the same things that you're hearing. I'm hearing states where I'm up by a lot, but they won't have a final number for a long time.
What are your plans for tonight in terms of watching the results and so forth?
So we're going to have a very special group of people, many of whom you know, and they'll be at Mar-a-Lago. In addition, we'll have 4,000 or 5,000 people at the convention center. On the assumption I win, I mean, I don't know if something else happens. I don't know what's going to happen in terms of declaring victory, but if in normal times I would go over to the convention center, let's say at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock or something, but I just don't know. It looks like we have a very substantial lead. It looks like we have many more Republicans voting today than Democrats. So if you have a lead and we have a bigger vote, that means you're doing very well, but they have to call a winner. They should. And they should call a winner, yes. Just stop talking about that. Go ahead. Oh, I don't know. I was honored to get Joe Rogan last night. I mean, Joe Rogan's a big deal. He's a very respected person. And I must tell you, Megan was fantastic. She got up and said some things that were really pretty amazing. But before that, I just think we ran a good campaign. I had good policy. We want people to come into our country, but they have to come in legally. You know, we want strong borders, and we want people to come in. We want to be totally inclusive, but they have to come in. I think that was a big issue. To me, that was the biggest issue. I may be wrong. You know, a lot of people said inflation. Inflation's a disaster, but I think it's a second issue. I think the first is the border. We can't allow criminals to be put back into our country or to be put into our country. So you have 13,000 plus murderers allowed to roam in our country. Not going to be allowed. They have to go. You have drug dealers. You have terrorists. You have a tremendous amount of people that should not be in our country, and we need strong borders in this country. And I think people are voting. And I think it's personally, I think it's the number one issue. We'll see how it pans out, but I think it's the number one issue. I don't have to tell them that. I don't have to tell them that there'll be no violence. Of course there'll be no violence. My supporters are not violent people. I don't have to tell them that. And I certainly don't want any violence, but I certainly don't have to tell. These are great people. These are people that believe in no violence. Unlike your question, you believe in violence. Go ahead.
Where will you be looking early to see if you're having a good night or not? What's your goal?
Well, I think I'll be at Mar-a-Lago for the most part. We have a lot of political professionals. I'm going over now with Melania, who I'm very proud of. She's got the #1 bestseller. Can you believe that? He can believe it. But so we're very proud of the job she's done with that. Her book is #1. But we're going to go over to the office in West Palm, and we're going to say hello to the workers. They've worked very hard.
Will Georgia kind of be your first indication of whether it's going to be a good
I think so. I mean, I hear we're doing very well there in Georgia. I hear we're doing very well. I hear we're doing very well everywhere. Now, I may regret that statement, but I'm hearing that we're doing very well. Would you go louder? No, I haven't prepared a speech. No, I did speeches last night, all day long, all night long. At 2 o'clock in the morning, we left, and we did a lot of speeches. You can probably tell. No, I don't have to do that. You know, I'm not a Democrat. I'm able to make a speech on pretty quick notice. If I win, I know what I'm going to say, and I don't even want to think about the losing part. I would like to tell all of the people that are online to stay online. We have tremendous Republican lines, and I've been asked actually to say it. It takes a while. I'd like to just make the statement that I'd like the Republicans to stay online. Democrats, if they'd like, they can leave. But I'd like the Republicans to stay online.
Any additional pressure today, given criminal cases against you that would proceed if you lost or go away?
I have no pressure whatsoever. I'm winning big cases. Those cases are all being won. The biggest case was the Florida case, and it's been won. I appreciate your nice question.
Sir, you and Mrs. Trump have been doing
No
this
pressure whatsoever.
for 9 years. Regardless of what happens tonight, is this your last campaign? Are you done after this?
Yeah, I would think so. I would think so.
How do you feel about it?
Sad and very fulfilled. I think we're going to have a very big victory today.
Mrs. Trump, how are you feeling?
Very good, thank you. Thank you.
If you win, do you have a plan in place to start naming staff and cabinet officers?
We're already a transition team. But I don't like talking about that until I find out how we do. I mean,
So how does this sort of threats from Iran and sort of assassination attempts sort of shape your thinking on stuff, right?
well, it doesn't. Look, we're not looking to do damage to Iran, but they can't have a nuclear weapon. That's my terms are very easy. They can't have a nuclear weapon. I'd like them to be a very successful country, but they just can't have a nuclear weapon.
Does it change the way you live? All the threats?
Well, I think Secret Service has been a little bit tougher, to put it mildly. I see more machine guns than I've ever seen in my life. We're surrounded by, I feel very confident with Secret Service. I think they've stepped up. Look, for a long time, they didn't give us the help. They didn't give us the assets, as they say, the manpower, woman power. They didn't give it to us. And we'd have rallies. You saw the rallies, 50, 60,000 people. And I'd have less people than Joe Biden, who had 5 people show up. And I'd have 55,000 people show up, and I had fewer people than him. So they should have done a much better job. And frankly, the president should make a very strong statement to the outside world, because
How are you feeling about your team as we head into the last day?
I think my team is incredible. Look, they say it's the best run campaign they've seen. Some people said it's the best run campaign they've ever seen. But in order to make that stick, you have to win.
How do you feel compared to your past campaigns? Are you more confident now than you were about your team than you were in the last 2 races?
My team, I'm very confident in. Many of them are the same players. As you know, Susie, a lot of the people are the same players. They've been very good.
Mr. President, Oprah said at Harris's rally last night, quote, if we don't show up tomorrow, it is entirely possible we won't be able to count the ballot.
Well, I think it's ridiculous. You know, Oprah, I was on her last show, or one of her last shows, and they picked the biggest people and all of that, and made a big deal. And I'm disappointed. I think Oprah's become a major divider in our country. And I think, frankly, she should be ashamed of herself. And you know who else should be ashamed? Fox. Because I've seen Oprah on Fox about 50 times making the same statement. And I think it's a disgrace what Fox does, because everyone thinks Fox is so pro-Trump. They're not pro-Trump at all. They've put Oprah on all morning long. That's all I see is Oprah. And, you know, I knew Oprah very well. She's been at Mar-a-Lago many times. Roger King had his funeral. That's the head of King World, which was Oprah's mentor. And Oprah chose the location. She said, Mar-a-Lago is the most beautiful place. Would it be possible to have Roger's funeral at Mar-a-Lago in the ballroom? We did it. The only time I've ever had a funeral there. And I think Oprah should be ashamed of herself to say that. She should be ashamed. She knows me. She wanted to run with me as a vice president. She was going to be the vice president. She wrote me a letter. It's in the book. And now she goes and makes statements like that. She's a divider. And Barack Hussein Obama is a divider, too.
There are people who are concerned that you didn't concede the election in 2020 when you lost. They're concerned that if you lost this election, you wouldn't concede again. What do you say to those people?
I think they're crazy. If I lose an election, if it's a fair election, I'd be the first one to acknowledge it. And I think so far, I think it's been fair. I think there's been a lot of court cases. Both sides are lawyered up. Thousands of lawyers are involved, thousands, can you imagine? And part of that is because we have too complicated a process. If we had a piece of paper, watermarked, you know that paper is more sophisticated now than computers. It's watermarked paper. It's unbelievable what happens with it. There's nothing you can do to cheat. And it costs you practically nothing to run. Think of it. We spend hundreds of millions and billions of dollars on these campaigns. You could do it for 8% of the cost and have accuracy, and we wouldn't have to be worried about when is Pennsylvania going to announce. It's really a shame.
Last question.
Last week, Howard Butler said that RFK would not be engaging with the secretary. Does he speak for you?
Well, he knows exactly what, but that's only based on what RFK told. I don't think RFK wanted that. You're talking about Health and Human Services. Let me tell you, he's a great guy, RFK, and he's going to do pretty much what he wants as far as I'm concerned. He wants health for women, for men, for children, and I happen to agree with a lot of the things he says. The one thing I told him, and I've told you in speeches for the last 2 weeks, we got to keep him away from the liquid gold, because the liquid gold, we have more than any of it. It's called oil and gas. That one I'm going to handle.
But in your cabinet, would you want
Well, I'd be honored to have him. Now, I haven't spoken to Howard about that, but look, if you think of it, he came in third, in running for president, right? He ran a very good race. He had obstacles. The Democrats just really unfairly put obstacles up, and hence Kennedy left the Democrat Party for the Republicans. Now, he's a very smart guy. He's a very caring guy. He's very popular, too. We get up and introduce him. The place goes wild. No, we love having him. And you know who else we love having? Elon. He's been great. And everybody, look, everybody. Getting Joe Rogan last night and Megyn Kelly. This is very inclusive. This is a movement. This is the greatest political movement in the history of our country. And even you people, and some of you are fair sometimes, but it's the greatest movement in the history of our country. And I've made that statement 1,000 times. It has never been challenged. It is the greatest movement, and we're going to make America great again. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. This way. Thank you, guys.
All right, that was former President Trump as he was casting his ballot over in Palm Beach, Florida. You heard he spoke to the media and answered questions. I do want to take you to an exterior shot that we have right now as we are at 12 o'clock on the East Coast and 9 o'clock on the West Coast. Thank you so much for being with us here on Live Now from Fox. I do actually want to take you out to a news conference that wrapped a short time ago while Trump was speaking out of North Carolina, as they did provide an update from election officials just on the situation there. No question, North Carolina is one of those battleground states that folks are going to be paying very close attention to. My name is Josh Breslow. I've been here for the past 4 hours, but coming up on the other side of this briefing, we're going to be hearing from Jeanne Francine as she sits in the hot seat once again with everything you need to know on this election day.
Good morning, North Carolina, and happy Election Day. I'm Karen Brinson Bell, Executive Director of the State Board of Elections. I'm here with Paul Cox, General Counsel to the State Board, who will help answer your questions in a moment. Today is the last day for eligible, registered North Carolinians to cast their ballot in this important election. Polls across the state are open until 7:30 p.m., and if you are in line at 7:30 p.m., you will be able to vote. Voters should go to their assigned polling place. To find your polling place, use the voter search tool on the State Board website, ncsbe.gov, and don't forget to bring your photo ID. Yesterday, we sent out a press release titled 10 Tips for Election Day Voters in North Carolina. Please share these tips with your audiences so we can have a smooth election day as well. If you haven't voted yet, please take time today to make your voice heard. As a reminder, all voters will be asked to show photo identification when they check in to vote. Most voters will simply show their driver's license, but many types of photo ID will be accepted. Go to bringitnc.gov for more information about the photo ID requirement and a full list of acceptable IDs. We also want to remind voters that if you forget your ID, poll workers must offer you a provisional ballot and the opportunity to either fill out an ID exception form explaining why you are unable to show photo ID, or return to your County Board of Elections office to show your photo ID before 5 p.m. on November 14th. No voter should be turned away from the polls for not having an ID with them. At this time, we are unaware of any disruptions or delays at polling places that may necessitate extending voting hours beyond 7:30 p.m. That's simply remarkable, considering more than 2,600 polling places opened statewide this morning. We will continue to monitor polling places statewide, and if necessary, we will call a state board meeting to consider any voting extensions. At this time, we have not heard reports of any major incidents at any polling places. We also have not heard reports of long lines today. It is a good day to go vote. We have been addressing reports that the State Board's voter search tool on ncsbe.gov has been running a bit slow today. This is not unusual for election days when tens of thousands of people are accessing the search tool at the same time. We ask voters to be patient and wait for your information to load. Finally, we want to remind the public that they can watch results come in tonight after polls close on the State Board's elections result dashboard found at ncsbe.gov. We remind members of the media to read the press release, 9 Facts About the Vote Counting and Reporting Process in North Carolina. There are a few important things to remember about election night results. They are always unofficial in the days after the election. Bipartisan election officials in all 100 counties will ensure every eligible ballot is counted. They will audit and ultimately certify the results. This is called the canvass process, and it occurs after every election. For local contests, the county boards will certify results on November 15th. For all other contests, the State Board will certify final results on November 26th. The State Board anticipates that the unofficial results reported by the end of election night will include about 98% of all ballots cast in the election. Over the 10-day canvass period, provisional ballots and some absentee ballots will be counted and uploaded to the results dashboard. These ballots are required to be counted after Election Day by law, and North Carolina's election officials will follow that law. Election officials do not call elections. Projections are made by media and/or the candidates using unofficial results, typically based on exit polls or the vote difference and the number of votes yet to be counted in a contest. Election officials will go through the post-election canvass processes as required by law, no matter how close the contest. Stay tuned to the State Board for additional press releases, and we will send out a notice for any additional press conferences in the coming days. With that, we will take your questions. We'll start in the room first, and then we'll go to the phone or online, and remind those folks who are using the phone or online system to press 1 when they do ask their questions. So is there anyone in the room? You'll go to one of the mics, if you would, please.
Hi, thank you for doing this and the other press conferences leading up to today. Brittany Gibson from Politico. I just wanted to follow up on something you had mentioned at last week's press conference about when you expect to have your unofficial tabulations tonight. You mentioned, I believe, in 2020, it was about a little after 12:30 a.m. Where do you project tonight being? And with the caveat of course, you're not going to rush to beat last time's
So our official final upload in 2020 was 12:28 a.m. on that Wednesday morning. And so I have challenged everyone to let's meet that or do better than that. Now, we have to be, face reality of it. That's our goal. But, there are a lot of votes to deal with once the polls close. With this election, new to our laws, we cannot tabulate and upload the early voting results at the close of polls like we've been able to do in the past. So those will not be released until after the polls close. The tabulators will be closed down and the results will be uploaded with the election night results as they come in. So at 7:30 p.m. we will release the absentee by mail results, and then we will just begin to gather the results from the election day polling sites. And being mindful that we do not modem results in North Carolina. So if you just factor in that if the polls are able to close at 7:30 p.m. because no one is in line, it's going to still take a solid hour or so before the results would be driven to the county board site. And we've got over 2,600 polling places that have to do that tonight. So the bulk of our results we anticipate would be probably between 9:30 to 11 p.m. And we'll address anything that's running slower than that. We'll also caution everyone that that's a large volume of data hitting our results dashboard at the same time. So just like we're experiencing some lag because of the interest in our voter search tool, we may be experiencing some lag in the results just because of the sheer volume of data that's going in and the interest that we're seeing in our results.
Thank you.
If you're just now tuning in to Live Now from Fox, we are out in North Carolina as officials gave an update moments ago on this election day. We did pause showing this because former President Donald Trump was speaking out in Palm Beach, Florida, his voting precinct after he cast his ballot. And speaking of that, on the left side of your screen, You Decide 2024, we do have some updates for you. Former President Donald Trump voting a short time ago out in Palm Beach, Florida, as I just mentioned. VP Kamala Harris casting her vote via mail-in ballot. President Joe Biden participating in early in-person voting, that happening Monday, October 28th. I'm Jeanne Francine, back on the desk with you on this election day. We're going to go ahead and go to our first 2-minute commercial break of the hour. When we come back, seeing that a campaign event is about to get underway with Walz and his wife out in Harrisburg. We'll be heading into that live event when we come back. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Jeanne Francine. The time now 12:12 here on the East Coast, and we continue with your Election Day coverage. Take a look at this, a quick content reminder for you right here on Live Now from Fox. The first polls close. We are 6 hours, 46 minutes, and about 50 seconds away from that. As you all know, we will have around-the-clock coverage right here on Live Now from Fox. As those polls do close, as those results start to roll in, you can rely on Live Now from Fox for live, raw, and uninterrupted coverage. As promised, a campaign event about to start out in Harrisburg, PA. I'm being told that Tim Walz and Gwen Walz participating in a political event in that area. Let's head inside now.
Checking out breakfast. I'm a little distracted by the menu. Just wanted to say hello to everyone. And thank you so much for joining us this morning and for all that you do. Kamala and Tim have all of the momentum right now, and that is because today's a big day, right? And I'm a teacher, as many of you know. 29 years in public schools. I would like to say that today is the ultimate group project. And it's due today. I know, I seem like a short notice. And here is the serious part of it, but I'm feeling very confident in our ability. It's pass-fail, right? It's pass-fail. So we are going to pass. Because, and here's what I want you to know, Pennsylvania. I know that we have come so far, and you have worked so hard. And it has been a privilege to work alongside you, and we are not going now. In any way, especially your family, friends, neighborhood, everybody gets out to vote. Okay, thank you for that, because every vote is going to count here and it goes down to it. And you know the times that the polls are open, right? From 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And every single vote is and counting. And it's so important. Because you know this, a new way forward is within our grasp. Yes. It is right there, just so close. And then we get to say, President Kamala Harris. So now it's my honor to hand the platform over to my husband.
You and your team, to Jimmy and the folks here for hosting us. Thank you so very much. And each and every one of you, Gwen, I, Hope and Gus. Thank you to Pennsylvania, but thank you to folks across this country who wrap their arms around our family, and I hope saw yourselves in us, middle-class folks who are just trying to do the right thing by their community. We're a room full here of teachers and laborers and nurses and doctors and business owners and folks who are doing the work in this country. Yes. And the Vice President has laid out a path and been very clear. She wakes up every morning thinking about you and what we can do better. And that's a pretty stark contrast to the other side. Absolutely. Yes. Pretty stark contrast. And we've laid that out, but I think the biggest thing for all of you, the privilege that we've seen of being free people and trying to be part of a system, a democracy where voices matter and every voice matters. And this week I could not be prouder to be on this ticket, to watch that contrast, one that is hopeful. Rule of law matters, Constitution matters, the American experiment matters, our neighbors matter. Contrast to a list of grievances and things. Look, this country's tired of it. And to be in Pennsylvania, and I know you get it a lot. when I'm here, I'm trying to watch a football game that is basically interrupted by massive amounts of ads. But those ads and the work and the on the ground is all geared at this day, these 15 hours, to get folks with the I voted stickers on. This thing's razor close. It's going to run right through here. One vote or two votes per precinct is what it's going to make. So those folks who think, you know, I don't know, what do I have to do with this? You have everything to do with that. First of all, your voice and your agency matters. Everybody matters the same. And contrary to what at least one guy thinks is, nobody's above the damn law. And nobody is beneath someone else. That's why here for our family, it's to say a thank you, a deep sense of gratitude to the folks who did this work, but a deep sense of optimism too. To watch, and a lot of people are trying to wonder, to watch this incredibly talented woman, I think the prosecutor, Attorney General of the largest state. Can we all just agree there's been no one more qualified? Across the country, almost this just sigh of relief. On Tuesday night, when Kamala Harris stood in the ellipse and said, that's how a president should sound standing up. That's how you should talk when you stand in front of the White House. That's how you talk when the White I think there's those moments when things align and you're at a point in history where things really do matter and you can take one road or the other. This country is going to take that high road. So, to all of you, we're grateful you're here. We're going to do some chatting. I think we maybe try and eat some of this good food. But no, you did what was asked of you. You did what was in this moment. So many people, Americans, whatever they could do. Some would give $1, some were volunteering when they could, some were talking to neighbors. We're still standing, we're still kicking, we're still proud in this country. And when that time comes down tonight and those last polls close, now look, it's going to take some time. We're going to, you know, you've been on the roller coaster. I'm up last night at midnight. You know, to Dixville Gulch or whatever. You know, I would say, you know, we could have been up there. That's tied. It's 6 votes, people. But that's going to happen all day today. Things are going to be coming in. But keep in mind, we have the fairest, the freest, the safest election. We have a free press that monitors the elections. Things are done right. So just stay calm, stay with it, wait till the end. Until that time, I said, when you're feeling that sense of anxiety, the surest, I mean, you know this, the surest antidote to any of that is action. Coming out with something like this, calling up somebody, remembering, I wonder if this, I'm on this, people like high school buddies I'd forgotten about, I'm texting, have you voted yet? You know? I will be honest, if they live in like South Dakota, I don't text them. I text my friends, you know, but Kamala made the case, every vote matters. Everybody's voice matters. So it's this moment, and I think, again, I hope all of you, and we're being very conscious about this as a family.
Love it.
Be mindful, live in the moment, understand where we're at, the privilege that we all have to do this, because history's going to judge us. And I'll tell you what, I will always stand on the side of light and joy versus that darkness. This state knows a little bit about winning. How about Pennsylvania win this for America?
All right, so this political event wrapping up on Election Day there in Harrisburg, PA. And on the right side of your screen, you see other Election Day boxes to put this exciting day into perspective for you. That top right box, a live look out in Philadelphia, PA, as ballots are being processed there. And then that bottom box takes us out to Nashville, Tennessee, my hometown of Tennessee, a voting location there as people are exercising their right to vote on this election day. And all morning, when I first came on the air around 5:55 this morning Eastern time, we've been asking you to get involved with us here on Live Now from Fox by sending in your I voted pictures. All you have to do is scan that QR code on your screen or go to livenowfox.com/connect to share them with us. And we want to share some with you before we go to a quick 2-minute commercial break. This one coming out of Decatur, I'm guessing Decatur, Georgia, from Simone Smith. Back in 2015, I became a citizen of the United States. And so every election that I get to vote in is a super meaningful one. This year was also the first year that my mother, who just became a citizen, got to vote as well. This is so beautiful. Simone, thank you so much for sending this to us. This one coming from Tampa, Florida. Kayla sending this in. Future voters. Took the kids to watch me vote and to see the process live in action. Never too early to talk to your kids about the importance of voting. You got that right, Kayla. Thank you so much for sending this in. This one coming in from Darden, Teresa, and Jackie. Happy to join my daughter for her first time to vote. Beautiful photo there, and thank you so much for sending this in. And continue throughout the day to send your photos to us. Again, scan that QR code on your screen or go to livenowfox.com/connect. The time now 12:24 here on the East Coast. We have to go to our second 2-minute commercial break of the hour. When we come back, continuing with your live election coverage right here on Live Now from Fox. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. You can see former President Trump entering this room, takes us out to a live event here at 1227 out in West Palm Beach, Florida, where former President Donald Trump is having his campaign headquarters on this election day. Let's listen in.
It's too early to congratulate, but we are hearing it's record kind of numbers. Caroline, do you want to just tell them what you told me a little while ago?
Sure, yeah. Enthusiasm is very high. We're seeing our voters are turning out, especially in rural areas across the country, and we see Democrat areas are not turning out as great as our people. So your people are ready, and they're turning out for you, sir.
And we had a big lead to start off with. Now here it's really amazing. I got a call from the people in Texas, Dan Patrick and others. They say that they've never actually seen anything like it. So it should be good. It should be good. I want to just thank everybody, regardless. We just wanted to come over and pay our respects. Our #1 best-selling author. Can you believe it? So we have a big day. We'll be watching, and it'll be very interesting. I hope they come up with a result tonight. They say areas that were winning big, they might not be able to come up with it for 2 days. It's just a crazy thing. And I'm really saying this more for the press than for you. They should do paper ballots, same-day voting, voter ID, and be done. 1 day, same day. And by 10 o'clock, everybody would be... And you know, you're talking about for 8% of the cost. It would cost 8%. Think of that. For 8%, you get a better product. But we'll have to look at it.
This is the heartbeat of your organization, sir.
This is a great... Well, you're the heartbeat too, aren't you? What about Alex? How's Alex? Are you surprised?
You're doing great, sir. You built the greatest political movement in history, and everybody here has been working super hard for you. And you're our inspiration, and we're going to bring this up today.
It's very nice. Thank you. It's very nice. And I hear the social media has been just unbelievable.
You make it easy for us. You give us a lot of
Joe
content.
Rogan has been he's a great guy, and that was a big thing that he did that. He just doesn't do that, and that he did that. I think it meant a lot. So all over the country, I hear it's all red, and we don't need that. You know, we went in with a very big lead, so we just had to sort of keep it. But I hear it's beyond that, and it's a movement. There's never been a movement like this, and we're going to turn our country around. We're going to not let people that murder people come into our country. We're not going to let drug dealers come into our country and terrorists come into our country. Little things like that, people are not going to stand them, and that's why we're doing well. But you know what? We still have a time to go, so let's make sure that we have this under control. And some of you I'm going to see tonight, I would imagine. I hope all of you. So I'll be seeing you tonight, and it'll be great. The First Lady's coming with us, and she's really impressed by the job you've done. Would you like to say something?
A great job. Thank you so much for all your support. And it was hard work. I know it's hours to hours, and I know how hard my husband is working non-stop. So thank you for all your support. Great job. Thank you.
And the day before, you actually reminds me, the day before too, we did a lot of rallies, and they're big ones. We did full rallies as opposed to, so we got in about 5 o'clock in the morning. We left Michigan. I think Michigan's going to be great, especially since we killed the biggest factory that ever auto factory that I think anywhere at any time, which would have, destroyed them. And we did that without being president. So that was a big thing, but I think Michigan's going to be good. They're all looking really good. Susie, I can't think of anything. I'm hearing any weaknesses, right?
Not
What do you think of Susie? Would you say good? Well, we just wanted to come over and pay our respects. This is really great, and we're going to see you tonight, and hopefully they'll be able to get these expensive computers going. The reason you use computers is to make time so that it's like fast. You don't use them so that you have to come up with an answer 3 days later, and that's a little scary when they say, what are they doing? You use a computer because it calculates quickly, and you use paper because you save cost. But the paper turns out to be much quicker than the computer. There's something wrong with that, so we don't like that. But there are a lot of things that are happening in our country that have to be changed, and we'll do it, and we'll do what's right for the country. And I think that's why we're doing well. But let's see if we can close it out. But it would be, I just asked about it, wouldn't it be nice if after spending billions of dollars that they could have a computer give an answer by like 10 o'clock in the evening? Doesn't make sense, does it? Doesn't really make sense. It's crazy. Thank you very much. We'll see you later. Have a good day. And you're going to be watching, and they're going to be watching. Make sure there's no cheating, right? There's going to be no cheating. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I like that.
So you're are taking a live look inside the Palm Beach County Convention Center there in West Palm Beach, Florida. This is the site of former President Donald Trump's campaign headquarters for tonight. He's speaking alongside his wife there, former First Lady Melania Trump, after he just cast his ballot just a few moments ago. And again, as you all are casting your ballot on this election day, we do want to hear from you and see your photos. All you got to do is scan that QR code on your screen or go to livenowfox.com/connect. More photos and videos coming in at this hour. Jennifer Santiago sending in this photo from Manhattan, New York. Let's make a difference with a beautiful photo there. Looks like Times Square. Thank you so much for sending that in. This one coming from Nicholas Torres and Rebecca Torres. It's a privilege to be able to vote alongside my father. Thank you so much for sending this photo when we appreciate you exercising your right to vote. And then this one coming out of Baltimore, Maryland, baby Noah, such a cute picture there. I am the future, already getting ready to exercise his right to vote in a few years once he registers. Thank you so much for sending that photo in. And again, continue to send your photos and you might see them right here on Live Now from Fox. All you have to do is scan that QR code on your screen or go to livenowfox.com/connect. As we are here at 12:34 on the East Coast, our content partners over at Fox 5 Atlanta, they continue with their team coverage, around the clock coverage to keep you informed out in the Peach State. Let's head in now and check in with those reporters on the ground to see the latest updates with Election Day voting.
Fulton County officials just told us this morning 5 bomb threats just happened minutes after the polls opened in Metro Atlanta for the election day. Thank you so much for joining us for the news at noon. I'm Alex Whitler. Now officials want those locations to stay open longer to accommodate impacted voters. We have live TV coverage for you this afternoon all across Metro Atlanta. Fox 5's Angelique Proctor joins us live from Fulton County with the latest on this distraction. Angelique, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you, Alex. A distraction indeed. Now, Fulton County election officials tell me they are already securing court orders to make sure that those polling sites that were affected will be able to stay open at least 30 minutes longer to make up for that lost time. Fulton County election officials say all 177 polling locations opened on time Tuesday morning. Voting had been brisk with almost 30,000 people casting their ballots by 10 o'clock. That smooth opening, though, was quickly disrupted in South Fulton, where election officials say phony bomb threats came in at Itris Community Center and C.H. Gallant Elementary School on Dotson Road. Both polling sites were temporarily closed. Evacuations occurred and security sweeps were done. Fortunately, because it is Election Day, no students were on any of the campuses. A phony threat was also called in at Feldwood Elementary School. Police moved right in and secured all 5 buildings.
Earlier today, unfortunately, we did have 5 non-credible bomb threats that were reported, leading to a temporary evacuation of 2 locations for approximately 30 minutes each. Thankfully, these locations are now operational again, and all polling sites are secure with active security presence.
Again, we want to stress none of those threats were credible. The Southern Poverty Law Center, as well as election officials, want everyone to feel safe while casting their ballots. Now, keep in mind there is an armed police officer at all of those precincts, so they want voters to feel safe. They also say with 30,000 casting ballots by 10 a.m., they expect that it will be 100,000 people by 7 o'clock or 7:30 in those instances tonight. Reporting live in Fairburn, Angelique Proctor, Fox 5 News.
Okay, Angelique, thank you. Not too long ago, we got an update from Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. He talked about wait times and also when we can expect to know results. Fox 5's Caitlin Pratt joins us live from a polling precinct in Avondale Estates. Caitlin, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, Alex. That's right. And the numbers, you're going to be pretty impressed by your fellow Georgians, how many people have already come out, cast their ballots. But let's talk about security, touching on why they were able to react in Angelique's case to all those different locations so easily. They had a plan in place. Law enforcement agencies across the state, they've had roundtable meetings leading up to today's general election. And that's why they were able to respond so quickly to any threats, any distractions, things of that nature. Now, Raffensperger, as you mentioned, spoke at election headquarters this morning. He says it's been a smooth sailing so far. Turnout solid and steady, more than you would think because the lines are moving really quickly, less than 10 minutes time in and out, according to the Secretary of State. 4 million early and absentee ballots, they're going to be uploaded and reported 1 hour after polls close tonight at 7 p.m. And by the end of the night, we should know all of those results.
Most polls will be closing at 7 p.m., so by 8 p.m. you'll have probably 99% of all that. So that'll be uploaded, so you get a good idea of what the race looks like. Then all the voting that you're seeing today, before the end of the night, you'll have all of that. Many of the smaller counties are pushing to be done by 10:30 at the latest, but that's the type of response you're going to see in the smaller counties. But by the end of the night, you'll have all of those results.
And of course, we will keep you updated as we get those numbers. And we're also learning what you should do if you maybe do encounter any sort of problems at the polls. Go ahead, contact your county board of registrar's office, or you can always contact the Georgia Secretary of State. Submit a complaint online as well. They have a special section to do that on the Secretary of State Elections Division website. That's the latest here in Avondale Estates this afternoon. I'm Caitlin Pratt, Fox 5 News.
Caitlin, thank you. In Jones County, a poll worker faces prison time for a reported bomb threat to the election superintendent. Nicholas Wimbish lives in Milledgeville. The Department of Justice says last month he got into an argument with a voter. Wimbish faces up to 25 years in prison. We've got more on that on our website, fox5atlanta.com. Now, if you're a Cobb County voter who received an absentee ballot, you should assume your ballot must be received tonight by 7 p.m. That's because the Georgia Supreme Court stayed or held off on a lower court's decision to extend the deadline to return absentee ballots. Fox 5's Brooke Zahner is live at the Cobb County Civic Center to explain. Brooke.
Yeah, a lot of people impacted by this, Alex. About 3,400 absentee ballot requests here in Cobb County were received late, and Cobb County election officials are now saying that if you have a ballot, you should drop it either at your county election office or vote at your assigned precinct today. But the reason behind all of this, according to election officials, is a surge, they say, in last-minute absentee ballot requests and equipment failures. That is what caused that delay. Now, the order that came down from the Georgia Supreme Court only addresses a motion for a stay, meaning that a final ruling on this has not yet been made. But for the time being, again, Cobb County election officials may only count absentee ballots that were received by 7 p.m. tonight. And we talked to one individual who came here this morning. She had requested an absentee ballot and ended up voting in person because she never received that ballot.
I was just trying to avoid the lines and the craziness because I know how people can get and emotions run high on election day, so I didn't want to be in the middle of any unexpected situation.
Now, if you're a Cobb County voter and you've been impacted by this, you should have been notified by email and text message. And again, best to turn in that absentee ballot in person at your county election office. You can also go ahead and cancel that ballot, go to your assigned polling place today, and cast your vote in person as well. It's a developing story we will continue to watch. But for now, that is the latest here live in front of the Cobb Civic Center. I'm Brooke Zahner, Fox 5 News.
Okay, Brooke, thanks for staying on top of that for us. We'll also watch other elections on the ballot here, including the race for the state legislature. All 56 Senate and 180 House seats are on the ballot. Also, congressional elections. So races for the House and Senate will determine which party holds the majority in several tax measures. Now, we have talked a lot about battleground states over the past several months, but what is it about Georgia that makes it such a pivotal player in this election? Well, first of all, electoral votes. Georgia has 16 of them, making it a significant prize for both parties. There are also demographic shifts over the past decade that have made Georgia more diverse and therefore more competitive compared to previous elections. It traditionally leaned more Republican, many of you know. Analysts also look at recent trends in 2020, and for the first time in a presidential election since 1992, Georgia flipped to blue. President Biden took the win in a narrow margin, signaling Georgia is no longer reliably Republican. And another contributing factor here, voter mobilization. Georgia has seen significant efforts from both parties to galvanize voters, including numerous visits from both Trump and Harris. Now, don't forget to join Fox 5 Atlanta for complete election coverage. It starts today, this afternoon at 3:30 with a show called Battleground. Then you can join us from 4 to 7 for Fox 5 News, followed by Fox's Democracy 2024. Join us again at 10 o'clock for all the Georgia results on Fox 5 News. Okay, that was a lot of politics.
All right, and we appreciate Fox 5 Atlanta for that team coverage on this election day. And as they share their coverage plans, we want to do the same right here on Live Now from Fox. Those election results coverage starting tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern time with my colleague Andrew Kraft. And of course, leading up to and after, we will continue to have a post analysis. I know after my colleague Austin Westfall plans to have that coverage as well. So you can continue to get around the clock coverage, of course, when those polls close, those up to date numbers as those ballots are counted. And then, of course, the speeches. You all want to hear the victory speeches and the concession speeches. You'll get that here as well. 12:44 is the time. I'm Jeanne Francine with you on this election day. We're going to go ahead and go to our third 2-minute commercial break of the hour. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Jeanne Francine. 12:46 is the time here on the East Coast. And I want to get back to those photos and videos you all are sending to us on this election day. Take a look at your screen if you haven't done so just yet. And you have plenty of time. Just scan that QR code or go to livenowfox.com/connect to upload those photos. Let's get to a few of them on this election day. This one coming from Tania Sims out in Orlando. Voted on my birthday. Okay, perfect day to celebrate your birthday and exercise your right to vote. Thank you so much, Tania, for sending in your photo. Another one we have to share with you on this election day comes from Hannah Pinalva. This coming from Nicholasville, Kentucky. Getting to tell my first son about a big day in history, praying for unity for our nation. A beautiful photo there, Hannah. Thank you so much for sending that in. This one, next one, coming from Devin Strickler out in South Carolina. Lucy may only be 2 years old, but with two veteran parents, she knows it's not only a duty, but a beautiful privilege to be able to vote. Go vote. Smart words there from Lucy, holding that beautiful sticker there. And then Debbie out in Colorado says, we're voting and we are powerful. You're definitely tremendously powerful as you exercise your right to vote on this election day. Send us your photos and you might just see them on your screen by scanning that QR code or go to livenowfox.com/connect. The time now 12:48, and election officials across the U.S. continue to hold press conferences about election security on this election day. Right now, I want to take you out to Harris County, Texas, as the clerk in Harris County held an election update moments ago. Let's listen in.
Good morning. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. We got sound. Good morning. I'm Tanisha Hudspeth, your Harris County Clerk. TENESHIAHUDSPETH. It is election day. We are finally here. Can you believe it? More than 1.2 million voted early here in Harris County, and as of a little 10 o'clock, well, now we're a little bit after 10 o'clock, more than 85,000 voters have voted here in Harris County today. Our team has been working hard to create a strong election infrastructure to receive voters today, and so far so good, even with inclement weather this morning. So let's not let the rain hold us back from voting in record numbers today, Harris County. As a matter of fact, there are still 700 vote centers available for you to vote today. Anywhere in Harris County, voters should know you can go absolutely anywhere. Much like early voting, you can choose any vote center that's most convenient or closest to you. Polls are open until 7 o'clock p.m. tonight, as long as you were in line by 7 p.m. What does that look like? There's probably a couple of election workers or greeters waiting to see who was that last person in line by 7 o'clock p.m. to allow all voters in the line to be accepted. Here are some tools that you all need to know for Election Day. Make a plan to vote. Know what's closest to you. Look at your sample ballot. View your specific sample ballot. Most voters in Harris County have 50 to 70 different contests to choose from. And make sure that you have one of the acceptable forms of ID. You can go to harrisvotes.com to find all the latest and greatest information about Election Day here in Harris County, as well calling our hotline 713-755-6965. And to the very right of me, maybe left of you, there is a huge call center that are taking calls from our election judges all day, making sure that we're supporting our election workers and accepting calls from our voters to help them find the closest poll, make sure that they have the tools and information they need to cast their ballot. For all those who vote by mail, that have your ballot by mail and have voted it, today only you can take that mail ballot to 1001 Preston downtown. That is the Harris County office, administrative office. Again, that's 1001 Preston. If you have not mailed your ballot because you were afraid we wouldn't receive it today, you can go downtown to 1001 Preston. Now, the voter must go themselves and show proof of ID, their particular ID that they're checking that ballot in. So today, and it won't be hard to see, right off of Preston and San Jacinto between Maine as well, there's a tent that shows that we are there ready to accept your ballot and your credentials. Again, for all voters who have received mail ballots and have not returned those, they can be returned downtown, or you can still go to a vote center, surrender that ballot, and vote a regular ballot. So every vote center has an oversupply of all items today. We make sure that we've over allocated for all supplies and documents for our election workers. There's also extra voting machines and materials in the field. Communication between our office and the election workers have been continuing on throughout the morning. We actually started even earlier, knowing that we had inclement weather happening this morning. So again, all voters should go to harrisvotes.com to get the most important information. In terms of service calls today, we've had about 60% were calls from election judges needing assistance before opening the vote center. So about 60% or so election judges. 40% were calls that were from the voters, right? What information do I need to go before vote? I want to check my voter registration status. You all should know, although we run elections, we don't run voter registration. That is the office of Ann Harris Bennett, the tax assessor collector, but we do work in tandem with each other. Their office is taking calls and has a very large call center today in regards to voter registration, and we are working around the clock to make sure that every voter has the opportunity to do so today. Are there any questions?
Talk about the energy today. Obviously, we have hundreds of paid election workers behind us. Just give us people a sense at home what goes on in this building
Yes, well, we're talking about the energy in here. Let's talk about the energy around this entire county. Here is our elections headquarters. So you have hundreds of individuals here that are servicing the individuals in the field. So from the phone center to our tech lines to our early voting ballot board members that review the mail ballots, and all of our administrative operations are happening here. Also tonight is where we actually tally votes. Some of you will be with us later on this evening. This is where all information in regards to results will come out of. So a good amount of operational systems are happening here. We're supporting everything in the field. And in the field is more than 12,000 election workers. Harris County is the third largest county in the nation and the largest here in the state of Texas. And so today we are supporting those 12,000 plus. Many of our vendors, from our voting system vendors to our tech lines, they're all here supporting us. We're a big operation and we have all hands on deck today.
And you talked about inclement weather. Have you seen any issues with that? I know TSU lost power. There's voting happening there. Talk a little bit about that.
So TSU lost power yesterday.
Yes.
That was yesterday, not today. It was not today. It did not impact the vote center on campus. There were parts of the campus that had outages, but not the vote center. We got on that right away. We spoke with the university and no issues with power today. So I just wanted to clarify that. We had a little bit of some power outages at a couple of vote centers. However, all of our machines are battery backup. No one stopped voting today, and power were up within minutes at all of those vote centers. So no long-term power outages, small increment outages. Again, all of our battery backup systems has made sure that voters kept voting, and within minutes, all of those locations had power backup. So that's to be expected with the weather and wind. We knew to be prepared for that today, but luckily we've not had to go dispatch a generator anywhere. So that's a very good sign.
Outside of the weather-related concerns, have there been any other issues that have been reported at one location?
Not major issues. You know, on the first day of Election Day, there's always small things that we have to work through. This is one day amongst less than the 12 days of early voting. So some of these judges are just getting started. There's a little nerves kicking in. They see the lines developing. So these are all just things that, you know, our election workers had to get settled, had to work those things out and get moving. We've done some adjusting of some of our machines and things of that nature. Nothing major, right? This is a typical election day. No major infrastructure issues with our voting today. Yes, ma'am. You're going to have to use your outside voice in here. I have a lot of voices I hear.
How long would it take for, like, let's say, the last polling station that had their last voter get voting count?
Okay, let me clarify. Meaning, if someone's in line by 7 p.m. tonight, how long could it take the last voter to vote? Well, we're going to find out tonight, right? This is Election Day. I can guarantee you that there is going to be plenty of voters in line by 7. We will take as much time at those vote centers as possible to vote all those voters. So buckle up, because it's going to be a long night, right? I'm going to go ahead and say that probably at least 10 or 20 times. We will process those voters. I imagine there's going to be more than a dozen locations that will still be voting voters. Could be 9 o'clock tonight, could be 10 o'clock tonight. We will make sure that we're getting real-time information to know about how many are online, if there's additional support needed, additional workers or anything of that nature to kind of help those lines. But it's hard to say. Those are the things, unfortunately, the county clerk can't predict.
All right, she says, buckle up. It's going to be a long night. That seems to be the sentiment for many clerks and election officials across the U.S. On this Election Day. This happening out in Harris County, Texas, moments ago, giving that Election Day update in the Texas area. On the right side of your screen, that top right box, a live look out in Philadelphia as ballots are being processed on this Election Day. And then that bottom box, a live look out in the Big Apple of New York City, a voting location there, as people are coming out on this Tuesday, November 5th, to exercise their right to vote. 12:57 is the time here on the East Coast. So let's go to our final 2-minute commercial break of the hour. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Jeanne Francine, about 1 minute shy from the top of the 1 o'clock hour here on the East Coast, and we appreciate you tuning in for your Election Day coverage. We've been getting a lot of feeds all day of different polling locations, and right now I want to take you out to Phoenix, Arizona. You can see the young and the old out exercising their right to vote on this Election Day. And as I told you all this morning when I first came on the air, you know, expect the lines to get a lot longer throughout the day. But the good news is if you are in line before your polls close, so let's say you're in line at 6 o'clock and your polls close at 6 o'clock, you will still be allowed to vote. But if you get into that line at 6:05, I can't make any promises. Maybe they will give you some leeway in that polling precinct. But as we continue to follow your top stories and headlines on this Election Day, right now I actually want to take you out to Maricopa County out in Arizona as they are about to hold an election newser to give an update on the state of the race and elections in that neck of the woods. Let's head on out there and listen in.
I'm glad the sun is not nice and bright today. Can you guys hear me okay? Test 3, 2, 1. Everyone in the back in the cheap seats, you guys hear as well? Okay, good. Test, 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 test. Okay, tell me if there's a problem, otherwise I'm stepping away.
All right, looks like they were just doing a sound check there, so giving a few more moments. But as we wait out in Arizona, as you could see, some sunny conditions out in that area on this Election Day. Again, guys, showing you this polling precinct out in Phoenix. All right, I see some people about to walk up for this presser, so let's head back out there live and listen in. Again, this is the Maricopa County election newser, your midday update.
Happy Election Day from the Maricopa County Tabulation and Election Center. We're happy to be here. We're hoping to provide information from the activities so far this morning. My name is Jennifer Lewer. I'm a Deputy Elections Director. With me today is Supervisor Bill Gates, and I'm going to go ahead and let him take the beginning of this press conference. He will have comments, and then we will do our question and answer. There are quite a few members of the media here. Our technology isn't as slick it has been in the past press conferences, but we'll do our best to repeat the questions as we get them for those of you who are watching live online. And now, Supervisor Bill Gates.
Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate it. Want to thank everyone for coming out here. Really Chamber of Commerce weather day today. We've got 74 degrees for our high temperatures, so really happy to see everyone out here. Things are going very well right now out there at our 246 vote centers across Maricopa County. Right now, the average wait time is about 2 minutes, so very, very short lines out there, so that's great. We've already had over 93,000 people check in to vote this morning, so lots of people out there, but certainly what we were anticipating. At the most, we have just a small handful of our vote centers that have 30-minute waits, but like I said, the average wait is just 2 minutes long. As we've been suggesting to people throughout this period of voting, make a plan if you haven't voted yet. We anticipate the heaviest time in the remainder of the day is going to be from 4 to 7 p.m. So before you go out to vote at the vote centers, go on to our website, go on to locations.maricopa.vote. There you can check out all of the vote centers and the current wait times so you can go to the most convenient vote center and go ahead and vote and then go on with your day. We are grateful for everyone who is working hard here in the tabulation center. We have people working 16, 18-hour days. This is a 24/7 operation, and I really appreciate, and I know the Board of Supervisors and the recorder appreciate all of their hard work. Just one thing to keep in mind, if you get into line at 7 p.m., you will have the opportunity to vote. No matter how long that line is, stay in line and go ahead and vote. As far as any questions about what's going on with the election, if you have concerns about things that you might be reading on social media and elsewhere, please go to our website, justthefacts.vote, where you can get the most up-to-date and you can get accurate information. The first results will be reported this evening around 8 p.m., and we anticipate we'll have approximately 1.2 million ballots that will be reported at 8 p.m. And then as the evening goes on and as we go into the early morning hours of Wednesday, we'll be reporting the results of people who are going to the vote centers and voting in person today. We anticipate that those numbers that we report around 8 p.m., that'll be about 70 to 75% of all of the early ballots have been cast. We've had a lot of excitement for this election, a lot of participation both in early voting, and of course that is continuing on today. So with that, be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
And we're going to actually utilize spokesperson Fields to help point people out for their questions, because we are. Yes, Nicole.
I was wondering, are you all seeing the misinformation circulating that some vote centers are shut down, and to address that, how many shut down?
Yes, absolutely. No, appreciate that question. There have been no vote centers that have been shut down. We are out there going ahead and servicing the printers as we normally would if there are issues, where people, where we need to update the toner, but there have been no vote centers that have been shut down. Things are moving very smoothly out there today.
So the question was to sort by wait times. The way the back end of this information works on the website is if you put an address in, it will give you the shortest wait times within that area. We do not have a sort that will actually sort everything in the valley, because the website's really designed for that voter who gets on and they're at a certain location and they want to see the shortest wait times in the location that they are at.
Yeah, so like I said, the printers have been operating very well. The board, we invested $9 million in getting new printers, and those are running very well. We're not running into, at this point, any of the tabulation challenges that we saw in 2022. And with regard to some of the ones that have a little bit longer lines, again, we're talking like 30 minutes, 32 minutes. I know Surprise, City Center, that one is very popular location. I believe Mesa Community College, Indian Bend. These are some of the ones that, frankly, in early voting, we've seen with some of the longer wait times, too. But again, we told people, we talked about this yesterday, we've been talking about this, lines will occur, but we're very pleased with what we're seeing right now. But something that's important for people that really want to avoid the lines, your slowest time left in the day now is going to be mid-afternoon. So go out in the mid-afternoon, you're going to be likely to have the shortest lines. And again, if you can't go and vote until after work, which I absolutely understand, for those folks, probably a good idea to go on to locations.maricopa.vote to see where the shortest lines are, and then go there and get in line by 7 p.m. and you will have the opportunity to vote today.
Behind the camera over here.
Yes, in the black. All right. We've done the investment, or we
Yeah.
can have the sheriff speak?
Yeah. Well, I would say, first of all, from our perspective, and happy to see if the sheriff has anything to add, we're very proud to have made the investments in security here at this facility and elsewhere. We have invested millions of dollars in that to make sure that the workers who are here today feel safe, and things have been very calm, but happy to, if the sheriff wants to add anything to that.
Yeah, just real quick, want to thank all the public safety partnership out there. Every agency is dialed up for this. We've done a lot of planning prior to this, and we have several emergency operations centers, communications, cross-line, all the way from McTech to Phoenix to our ACTIC and even the sheriff's office. So those communication lines are continuing with anything that comes up. At this point in time, we've had no credible issues relative to public safety, and we will continue to monitor and assess and have those resources deployed throughout Maricopa County until those polling centers close, and then obviously things will start to wind down over at the tabulation center.
Yeah, and I just want to thank the sheriff. I want to thank all law enforcement here in Maricopa County, as well as our federal partners who have just been amazing, county attorney, U.S. attorney, across the board. It's a partnership that we have here in Maricopa County that I think is really second to none. So again, Sheriff, thank you so much.
We got folks in the back that we don't want to miss out on. I don't know if they can be seen. Jillian? So the question is about the shutdown of our vote centers. Our vote centers, obviously, they close at 7. If voters are in line, they are allowed to stay in line, they are allowed to vote. Maricopa County is an expansive county. We are larger, I think, than 7 states in the United States. So as those vote centers close down, they pack up their materials. It's going to take time for them to bring those materials back to the tabulation center. We are expecting to be here most of the night as those centers break down and bring back that information. I don't know that that's very helpful to your question, but it will take time. All right. We're good to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
So out in Arizona, the Maricopa County election officials holding this 1 o'clock Eastern time election day update on the left side of your screen. Some reminders for you on this election day as millions across the country head to the polls. All eyes are on the swing states of Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. And Arizona polling precincts will be open until 7 p.m. Mountain Time. So wanted to give you all that quick update. And as we discuss polling precincts out in Arizona, want to take you out to one out in Phoenix here at 112 on the East Coast. Let's go to a quick 2-minute commercial break. When we come back, heading into more election day coverage from across America. We'll be right back in just 2 quick minutes. 1:14 is the time here on the East Coast. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Jeanne Francine. Several live pictures we are getting into our Live Now from Fox studio. I want to share them with you at this hour. This one on your screen taking us out to Philly as vote counting is underway in real time. So you're getting a live look there. This one right here, this shot, it takes us out to Milwaukee. A press conference just wrapped up in this area that we want to share with you from the Milwaukee Election Commission out there. I'm going to play that for you now.
Sorry, it was 106,000 ballots as of this morning. I'm going to be checking that in a little bit and then putting it up on the website for you guys to see. So happy to take any questions. I think we were less than an hour of the start time, so I still feel pretty good. I mean, I've been telling everyone after midnight we would continue to receive ballots until 8 p.m. Every single ballot will be counted that's legitimate and qualifying. The post office let us know that they're going to continue to send ballots to us instead of just doing like 1 or 2 deliveries, so that's great. We're going to have a continuous flow. We're closing our drop boxes at 6 p.m. today, and so that gives us enough opportunity to process those ballots and get them out here instead of having like a large number at the end of the day. So I'm still anticipating 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning right now, but it's hard to tell. Can't read the tea leaves, but at the end of the day, I think probably later on in the evening, about 5, we'll have a better sense.
So you don't expect that hour delay at the starts at least another hour?
I don't think so, no. Where the biggest challenge in central count is the formal pre-exporting, exporting, transfer, and importing process that occurs that the city of Milwaukee does. And you see we have 13 machines. It's a very large area. We're going to have 2 bipartisan teams. Myself and the deputy will be doing this in the public sphere. That takes a long time to walk through these 13 machines and download that information. It gets secured in a bag, all in the public sphere, then transported under police escort to Milwaukee County Courthouse. The courthouse also have its additional security measures, and then we go in and formally transfer those results to the county, and then they upload those, which that takes several hours in and of itself. We will continue to give you as many updates as possible so that you are informed and that you can let the American public where we stand. We appreciate all of your efforts today.
Have there been any challenges today, either at Central Count or any other polls?
I have not heard of them yet, no.
And why was there a delay this morning?
We just have a lot to count. This space is really big, and so in order to protect the security of the ballots, we wanted to make sure we don't like moving uncounted ballots outside of pods. So we made that decision. We're feeling okay. It was less than an hour. Nothing to see here. We're good. And so we'll continue to give you those updates.
For the viewers sitting home on the couch,
yeah.
In a nutshell, if they're nervous or worried about their vote, that everything is good,
yeah.
Tell them to vote?
Oh, definitely. So one of the things first, this here central count is absentee ballots. The process of absentee balloting is before the ballot is even issued, the voter has to issue an absentee application with the photo, regular voters with the photo ID. We confirm, is that person a legitimate voter? They have their application. We scan that, we track it, and we issue them a ballot. That ballot gets sent to the voter, and when it returns, we make sure, does this ballot connect with a person? So any ballot that does not, we cannot connect to a voter, any ballot that does not meet the qualifying standards will not be counted, will not be opened. We have enhanced security. We have a team of law enforcement partners here today and all throughout the city that are acting swiftly. Our chiefs are out there, lots of staff. I think the one thing I ask, it's a lot of lines. People are excited to vote in this presidential election, and we ask for patience. And then, don't fret to call us at our City Hall office if you have questions or concerns.
How many people do you have working on the process right now? How many people are working on the process right now, and will that go up or down as the night goes on?
Well, we have about 300 that registered to work. I feel like we have about 300. We have a couple people working morning shifts and a couple people working afternoon shifts. So I don't see, we have to balance that. So I don't see much of a change to, I think we'd argue about over 300 people here in total.
What do you expect overall turnout?
I'm sorry?
What do you expect overall turnout?
Oh, the predictions of turnout. I don't know, but you know what? It's hard to read the tea leaves with early voting, but if you notice, early voting numbers surpassed 2020. So we're feeling confident. And so I hope turnout is great, but at this point, you know, I mentioned 31,000 at 11 a.m., but that's only 96 of the 180 polling locations. And I would argue the other remaining locations that didn't report is because they're really busy. So I'm feeling good. I think when we get later in the afternoon, we'll have a better sense of where we're headed.
Quick question, Paulina. Do you know where the flash drives are? You don't need to tell us where, but they're on site to put in the...
They're on site, and remember, the flash drives right now are just flash drives. Once we go through the clearing and the formatting process, then they become official election, must be under security, and that will be occurring probably around 7.
Thanks. So.
We've got time for another 2 or 3 more questions. So we're hearing that a lot of people are registering to vote today.
Yes. Yes, no, those votes will, thank you, very good question. I forgot to mention, we're seeing a lot of voter registration. Voter registrations are long. It's great to see that. I just want to remind voters that when you go to register to vote, you have to bring a valid photo ID and a proof of residence. Please, please, please go on our website, check out what those details are so that you're ready when you head to the polling location. We are seeing long lines for voter registration. As long as those voter registrations, the voter presents their photo ID and their proof of residence, those ballots will be counted. They go into the machine that is at the polling location.
And did you say you're seeing more of those same-day registrations this year than in years past?
I can't speak on the details. We don't, you know, numbers, those kinds of numbers don't happen until after the election. But what we're saying is we're seeing a lot of excitement and a lot long lines on the registration side at our polling locations.
Last question.
No, actually, I'm proud to say, and what happens at most, if not all of our elections, is we have very minimal observer issues. When we do, we coach, we work with the chief, we talk to the observer, and it's so far so good.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Paulina, can you just clarify, you started like before 9 or at 9?
It was before 9.
Just before 9?
Right now.
So that wraps up that press conference that happened moments ago. The Milwaukee Election Commission giving an election day update here at 122 on the East Coast. I want to give you a live look, though, real time of what's happening out there in Milwaukee. You can see right now poll workers are looking and opening those mail-in ballots. That's happening in real time as we continue to give live, raw, and unfiltered election day updates. We're going to go ahead and go to our second 2-minute commercial break of the hour. When we come back, continuing with your breaking news headlines, top stories, and live events of your Tuesday, November 5th. We'll be right back.